Oh, okay, right.
Hel-
Steam
hel-
library.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 41st episode of TOSH Talks. And I've just realised I have TOSH News on the screen. That is not correct. I will change that right now. Um, in the meantime, I need to introduce everyone. So, tonight we have a relatively full panel of people that decided they want to talk about how the right wing is going at the moment. So, we have the usual host, Tharium. Hello, well, not host,
Hello
you're a
there.
co-host, but hello anyway. My partner
I'm
in
taking
crime.
over.
To be fair, actually, you can have Saturday off. I've got enough people for laughing at the Guardian, so you can remain in the dungeon instead. You know, you did so well over Easter. I thought you deserved a break. So there you go. But you can come on stream Thursday when I'm playing Subnautica. So there you go. Right, got the shilling out of the way early. We've also got Mercian. Hello, Mercian.
Hello, everyone.
Excellent. And finally, we have Cero, who was telling us all about anime games. So he's getting kicked.
You are all welcome. Anytime that you need recommendations, I'm your sorry, I just bit my tongue.
You're my
I'm your
lady.
man.
Oh man. Oh good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for now we are here to obviously talk about the fracturing of the right, which it's been sort of going in slow motion for probably since Trump got elected. There were cracks before that, but it's really started to fracture a lot more recently, I think we'll say. Obviously on screen we've got Peter Hitchens looking fabulously disgruntled as usual. That's mostly what you're going to be seeing, but we are going to go through that thread a bit later. Because it basically collates together a load of more the useless side of the right, but obviously for now I think we need to talk about the mainstream right first, you know, the rights that people really know about. So it'll be an open discussion, so I guess I'll start off. And obviously, anyone in the chat, you can super chat, send us your chats as well. We do tend to read them, so do get involved. But as I say, I'll start off. So the right in the mainstream has obviously had a splinter between those who are, you know, those in the Tory party and those in Reform, effectively.
Do they class the Tories as right wing?
Well, this is what I'm going to get into.
Nominally.
It would be difficult to say Robert Jenrick, for instance, isn't right wing.
You got to realise that I've become so jaded that I don't even consider reformers particularly right wing either.
Same.
Not saying that I'm not calling them communists, right? I'm just saying that maybe this is actually a really good place in the discussion to sort of make sort of definitions and terms more, put them up front, because what do we mean by right wing?
I am fine. I am fine to go with the definition we've had for about 20 years, which is right wing is anyone not left. Because ultimately, this is what it's come down to: that the right wing have started winning, and these factions are starting to kind of nip at each other's ankles.
Yeah.
So, Sarah is quiet. No, he isn't. I'll turn you up. So
Oh, you're most certainly not. I'll have you know.
There you go. He's louder now.
We live in a world where Keir Starmer's more right of Kemi Badenoch, I would argue.
Yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
In rhetoric, maybe.
I was going to say in action, not in ideology.
I don't.
He wouldn't be making these moves if his hand wasn't being forced. That's kind of how I see it.
I don't even necessarily know if it's in rhetoric. I mean, what rhetoric would you point out that Starmer's to the right of Badenoch on?
We're gonna smash the gangs.
But Kemi Badenoch was pro Rwanda scheme, which is.
I mean, that's left wing. Publishing the.
How was the Rwanda plan left wing?
Data.
The Rwanda plan was put all people who cross the channel to Rwanda. How's that left wing? What do you mean?
Yeah, well,
we were away for that. We've been on stream together for like 3 years. You were for it the whole way. Why you said it's left wing? You left wing?
No. I said it was a distraction all along. Because no one ever went there. Well, okay, one person.
Yeah, one person went. It cost $3,000. Well, I'll give you. Go on.
I was just going to say we talk about like Keir being more right wing of Kemi. There's if the Labour Party do anything vaguely on the right, they always have nefarious reasons behind it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let's face it. The ethnicity crime tracking. That's obviously a facade for getting digital ID in.
Well, yeah. Which I'd say that's that's pretty left wing. Some of the Tories want that. I've not really heard what Reform's position is on it. I can't imagine they'd be for it, but I might be surprised on that. I know obviously a lot of us on the online right don't want that because I don't particularly want to have to put digital ID to either Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, obviously, to prove who I am. I like my job. Is what I'd say to that.
VPNs are good. That's all I'll say.
VPNs are good. We're not sponsored, and I don't even have a VPN. Actually, no, I do have a free VPN, but I rarely use it.
Ooh,
Should probably use
they're
it.
not good.
No, I know, but didn't NordVPN get didn't they have not a scandal, but they had a data breach, didn't they? Can't remember what happened. Either way, we're here to talk about the right. We're not here to talk about Starmer, who's obviously left wing, but it is true that a lot of Tories are left wing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
My mum would often say, "Oh, you should go into politics," and I'm just like, "Trust me, they don't want me."
Yeah.
If I got into the Conservative Party, I would probably actually I'm not going to say that. I would probably fire. Yes, I would fire 60% of the Tories, and the other 30 would have to grovel at my feet.
You do a Cromwell. You'd Cromwell the party.
It would look very different when I was finished with it, but it would at least be a Conservative Party again once I was done, even if there were only 5 members left.
Perfect.
I mean, Reform might take you. There you go. You got
they
on
probably wouldn't at this point.
They wouldn't take me.
Yeah, they wouldn't take you. You're mental. Cero, Cero's got a life.
Debatable.
Okay, I've seen your Steam library. You definitely know life, but still. Either way, obviously, I suppose the story so far has been Tories. Everyone is annoyed at the Tories, unless you're a pensioner that isn't really concentrating. That seems to be the only demographic left for the Tories is pensioners that want their winter fuel allowance back. And obviously, Reform have been nipping at the heels for about a year now. They got 5 MPs at the last election, then lost one for reasons that we've been through hundreds of times. And now they're at a point where another set of elections, and effectively, as much as people want to say, or Reform being flanked on the right, there's factions saying that. As I've been through in multiple videos, I just don't see it. I don't know why that's being said. Well, I do know why that's being said. I don't know why they think what they're showing me backs it up, though. And from there, we've also had a breaking of the dork right as well. There's big issues like Israel, Gaza, Ukraine, Russia, these sorts of things. Churchill, Hitler seems to be an issue as well. That hit the mainstream like a ton of bricks, and all of a sudden, Douglas Murray, of all people's left wing. I know he's gay, but, so's most of the dork right. What's your point?
Yeah, we covered that, didn't we, in a recent one? It's just...
Oh, well, quite. So, obviously, the splitting of the right... just one more thing to touch upon. The splitting of the right, people have said, is what have let Labour in, which is kind of true, but the thing I'm finding shocking at the moment is that was the plan for a lot of zero-seaters, and now these same zero-seaters are coming out and effectively saying, oh, it's Farage's fault that we've got Starmer. And I'm kind of like Anakin. It's like, hang on, this whole operation was your idea.
I mean, that's also wrong to say that because Labour were going to win with Reform or not.
Yeah, people didn't vote Labour. People just didn't vote Conservative.
Yeah, absolutely. And
plenty of the people who did vote Reform, if they weren't there, would have just not voted at all.
Yeah,
they weren't
legitimately. That was me.
Yeah.
I was so jaded that I was actually considering abstaining.
So I guess. Well, go on. You go first.
I was just going to say, we're throwing around a lot of terms like dork right, online right. Is it worth trying to clear up some of these distinctions?
Well,
because we are fracturing, but
well,
what are these fractures?
this is exactly why I've got the tweet up on screen, which is from Gammon to Worshipper 2. So we've gone through the mainstream stuff, but as I say,
just saw that name, Cameron.
yeah,
That's amazing.
Who is a good friend of the channel and is someone. Me and him are in DMs quite a lot. We have back and forth on Twitter. We're very much on the same page when it comes to the dork right, how they operate, what factions are there, and both of us are basically at a point of they could probably all be thrown under the bus. To be honest, they're all beyond useless. Go on.
Is he still supporting the Tories though?
No, he's for a Tory reform coalition.
Right.
I think is what he wants. He wants the Tories more right wing. He's one of the Tory boys, as AA would say, but AA says a lot of things. So I think, yeah, we should go through this particular thread, because he starts off here with the main types of the dork right. Number one is the contrarian dork, whose patron saint is Peter Hitchens. The current example we have is Pete North. Does everyone know who Pete North is?
No.
Okay, that's good. Pete North, I'd say, is one of my most hated people on Twitter. He is currently the he's currently, I think, working with the Homeland Party. Does everyone know what the Homeland Party are?
Are they still a thing?
They are still a thing. I believe they still have 1,000 members technically. They self-describe as sensible nationalists whose focus is remigration, and the plan for that, apparently, according to Steve Laws, has been quite tempered. It's effectively turn off the taps for a load of illegal migrants and non-British nationals. I'm fine with all that, but then the last part of the plan is force remigration for anyone who didn't leave and isn't a British national, I would imagine. But Pete North is definitely the type of person who has the biggest ego known to man, write 20,000 paragraphs in the standard tweet that he sends out, where effectively he says a whole load of nothing, and in the end he just says things to be contrarian. Soon as reform start doing well, he's against reform. You know, he's in Homeland, no doubt as soon as people in Homeland start getting popular, he goes against them. Think Steve Laws, for example. Eternal contrarian. As soon as there's any sort of winning, they're against it. And that's Peter Hitchens. Peter Hitchens is just against anyone who's currently winning.
Yeah. To be fair to him, sorry, Cero and Tharium.
I was going to say, the last election, Peter Hitchens was just an absolute joke. Because for years he's been saying the Tories need to be destroyed. Suddenly the Tories look like they might be destroyed. No! Tory!
0 seats is stupid, actually.
To be fair to him, though, like, it's kind of like he would have probably preferred the Tories to be destroyed when Starmer was not about to get into power, because that was actually a fair point that he did make, but I know what you mean.
Well, who else would it be? It's going to be someone in Labour.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is that I mean, look, there's evil and then there's like more evil, though. You know, there's Dr. Evil and Mini-Me, you know.
They were all pretty evil. I mean, actually, I don't think I'd have minded Jeremy Corbyn Prime Minister.
Oh my God.
No, I'm just out of Labour, right? I mean, say what you want, but for the most part, he's not double. He's not a he means what he says. Do you know what I mean?
He was kind of a Bernie Sanders kind of dissident on the left.
He's that kind of person. No, I'm not saying
he was essentially the fracturing of the left, politically speaking, in the UK.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because there was the Momentum group, and then there was like the old Blairites, and then there was essentially a civil war between the Corbynistas and the Blairites.
And the Blairites won.
He's too stupid. Corbyn is too stupid to be sneaky.
Pretty much.
He wouldn't have been nefarious about it. That's it's still been bad, but I don't think it'd been very nefarious.
Yeah, like he's just open. Yeah, I like terrorists.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
To some extent, not like terrorism, but
I think he would have tried to do everything he promised.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want him. That's why it was good that Boris won.
No, no, but I mean, like, okay, Keir Starmer said, for example, like what's been on the news today is that they want to put a tax on milkshakes, right? And Keir Starmer says we're not gonna change anything about food stuff because it's so he's already going back on that. Whereas I think Jeremy Corbyn would have stood to his word.
Jeremy Corbyn would have had to go back on his word because he probably will have been assassinated. To be fair.
Well, we would have had free broadband. Think about it.
No, we wouldn't. That's my point. No, we wouldn't have been able to afford it, and he would have been killed for ruining the country.
No, I think he would have tried.
Yeah, I think he would have tried. I think it would have failed. I think everyone would have got so annoyed. He'd be, I don't want to go into detail because I like my YouTube channel.
My point was going to be. I mean, it was before Jeremy Corbyn, Ed Miliband. Well, we see how he's treating the net zero stuff. I mean,
yeah, he's another true believer.
Jeremy Corbyn probably wouldn't have tried to block out the sun.
Yeah, that too.
I feel like the only right winger that doesn't think that's a terrible idea. But anyway,
literally. Just a side note, Harrian, I want you to issue a public apology because that clip caused me psychological damage.
Which clip?
The one where you're trying to explain basic economics to the person running the energy sector.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm someone who doesn't generally. I'm not emotive when I'm listening or watching a video, but I actually shouted in my office. To the point where I then went into the other room and started ranting to my wife. That was how much it had affected me. So, honestly, it's like such levels of stupidity. I can't deal with it.
Someone in chat saying Hitch is a boomer spiritually, but he's on side. I don't think he is. I actually don't think. I think he's. I'm genuinely of the opinion that he's always been a communist and still is. His answer to everything is just bigger state. That's his only answer to everything. I don't think that's on side personally, but at least he wants a based pro-Brit state. I'll say that. But at the end of the day,
he's just really embittered. That's kind of the way I've always looked at him. He essentially has been the canary in the coal mine for like 20, 30 years. Basically, my entire life, he's been the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah, and
then suddenly there's a problem, and he's kind of in the situation of the "well, I told you so."
Well, that's all his MO is.
But I was going to say that's basically he's essentially become so embittered that's become his personality.
Yeah,
I think. But then, like you say that, but then, like you said, like with the election, we finally go, okay, yeah, we'll do what you want, Peter, and he goes, no, don't destroy the Tories. He's just anything popular, he's got to be against.
Yeah,
there definitely is an old man shouts at cloud.
Well, Nathan Hood said in chat, Hitchens is the Denethor character, but with less responsibility. Yeah, pretty much. I can imagine him burning his own son. Anyway, key characteristics: loves losing, adopts unwinnable positions deliberately, wants to be the one true right winger in the village, and purity. We're
going to lose with honor, or what's the expression? We're going to lose with dignity. That was it. Losing with dignity.
Yeah, but Dude is kind of right. That these aren't particularly enemies, but they're not particularly useful either. They're just kind of there. These are probably the least egregious dorks, we'll say. So we'll move up next.
Yeah, I feel like these are the people that you could potentially reason on side.
These are people I don't really care. Like, they'll vote whoever. They'll probably vote on the side of the right anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Give me a few beers with Peter Hitchens. We'll make some magic.
Yeah. Next up, we have the literal Nazi dork, patron saint.
I actually know nothing about Nick Griffin. I know him by name, but I know nothing about him. So you're going to have to fill me in.
He was an early one talking about the grooming gangs. That's good, but he did have a habit of being a bit too racialist in public.
During the 2010 election, I remember this because I was in university. I remember this black lady girl who was very worried about Nick Griffin being on Question Time, and I said to her, "Let him be on Question Time," because I've always been about free speech. And she's like, "No, he's a Nazi." I says, and he'll show himself up to be a Nazi, and I was quite right because he
Well,
was done after that.
oh, it's humiliating, really. It was quite funny.
What's I mean, that isn't that just the quintessential? Was it sunshine is the best disinfectant?
Yeah, pretty much.
Just-
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but we had to talk about, did Nigel Farage finish Nick Griffin's career? Nick Griffin finished Nick Griffin's career by going on Question Time.
These people do it to themselves. It's gonna happen to reform. You know, the femboy was kind of a funny joke. It's not killed them off, but what was there to kill off? Would be my question. They've not. The only councillors they have are defectors. They've not won anything. They get less than Steve Laws gets less than the psychedelic party, but then again, Steve Laws isn't part of Homeland anymore, and he was a big draw to it. So what are they doing? But
I have seen some of the former BNP sort of members say that Nick Griffin destroyed the party because he started working with Jews. Because of course, that's the way.
Well, I mean, key characteristic.
How-
You're Jewish.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how it just they managed to always get. It's kind of like, how's the weather? Oh, something to do with Jews. It's just like, oh, come on, just-
There was a great tweet. There was a great tweet the other day that effectively said, "I'd be on side with the anti-Semitism if it actually led to like white consciousness, but all it seems to do is be an excuse to not take responsibility for yourself." It's like, yep, pretty much.
yeah.
This
Go
is the
on.
one thing they tried to get Tommy Robinson on, because Tommy Robinson tried to join BNP at one stage, but he didn't fell out with BNP because they wouldn't let his black friends in.
Well, that's part of the reason they got ruined as well, because it actually breaks the law to not allow in people because of the colour of their skin, because the Race Relations Act at the time.
And this is where I have a bit of a, I don't know, lukewarm take. I actually don't have a problem with segregated spaces if it's like in private situations, like
Racist.
They're called
so for
countries,
example,
mate.
well, like the simplest version is gender segregated, right?
What did you say?
Oh,
What did you say?
So for example, a female only gym, I have no problem with this
Yeah.
idea of a sort of a segregated space.
Mm.
And if a group of people genuinely wanted to get together privately, and they're like, you know what, I only want to hang out with like white people for whatever reason, I don't see any reason to stop them. I mean, but at the same time, you know,
Well, you
once it starts
don't
getting
need
into
to
like,
associate with them.
yeah, well, exactly.
Well, people self-segregate anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they do.
yeah. Anyway, we're still getting through this thread. I was going to say
sorry, I
that
derailed.
no, it's fine. Well, I'm derailing now. The funniest thing
Something World War One.
The funniest thing I've seen from Nick Griffin is not again is in what was it? Is that book Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race? And
Oh, Robin Diaz.
no, it's some black British woman who did that.
Oh, was it Tariki Andrews or something like that?
No,
Oh,
it was a woman.
Tahindi Andrews.
Kahindi, and no, it wasn't him. It was a girl.
Oh, wasn't him.
It was
It's
some.
so- I
It was
saw-
some journo. It was some journo. You won't get the name in a million years because I can't remember the name. But she called him to interview him for that book, trying to make out he's some representative for like the majority of white Britons. It's like, but they voted him out constantly. Well, he was never in. But in the interview, she basically asks him at one point, "What would be your suggestion for black people like me?" And he just says, "Move back to Africa," and just puts down the phone on her. Like Nick Griffin is just a bit of a mad
Rennie
lad.
Edo Lodge.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, she literally 15 minutes of fame for
Oh
that
yeah,
book.
yeah. She looks. I just looked at the picture. Yeah. I don't even need to know. I knew that she authored it just from the picture.
Yeah. But obviously the current example for this is Steve Laws, which to be
Problem glasses and
fair,
everything.
I don't think I've ever seen Steve Laws openly be pro-Hitler. I'd say a better example would be Zuma Historian, but Steve Laws works with him, and Steve Laws has that obviously infamous picture of him saying, "Imagine my shock," with a picture of him looking like a goblin in front of a Jewish guy in a kippah. So I'm happy to say basically he's part of the anti-Semite crowd, which is basically what this Nazi dork crowd is anyway. The role models obviously Oswald Mosley and pretty obviously Adolf Hitler.
The thing that I just find it so like bizarre because it's like, you know, can I think of Jews that have done bad things? Yes, but this sort of weird sort of obsession with just blanket blaming. I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to let it pass because I'll start ranting.
I'm totally on the side of Jordan Peterson. It's just a way to like a successful minority is just easy to blame.
Yeah,
that seems to be
100%.
It. And I think it's Douglas Murray who always says whenever anyone has a go at the Jews, it's because they're doing something better than that their group isn't doing well at. You know, the Iranians call them colonialists, as if the Iranians aren't a colonial empire. Not quite an empire,
yes,
they're not that big, but
well, no. But are we going to? It's like, sorry, Persian. Are we going to talk about empires now?
Well, quite.
I know a little bit of my Middle Eastern history. You're not going to scope that one past me.
You know, the Germans, it's like they're better at banking than us. You know, our economy sucks. Back in the Weimar days. So, but yeah, as I say, this has broken a bit slightly mainstream, I'd say. They're not quite open about it yet, but, you know, that whole thing with David Smith and... Ian Carroll. No, it wasn't Ian Carroll. Who was the Martha Maid podcast guy? Dal Cooper. These people, you know, these clips have come out. Jake Shields is another one. These clips and tweets have come out of them basically. Oh, no, I'm totally serious. Churchill was the bad guy. You know, Hitler wasn't that bad. What are we on about? It's just plain as day.
At one point.
What?
He's very much onto that.
Oh, AA openly said, like, yesterday, he basically said, I'm never beating the Churchill myth. It's like, of course you're not. how would you ever kill the Churchill myth? It's ingrained to us post-World War II.
Well,
plus Hitler was good.
I was going to say that you'll never kill it because it's... I don't know how you would say it. Number one, it's not sort of mythological in the sense that it didn't happen, but you know what I mean. Sorry, I'm failing to connect my thoughts here, but in the same way, you're not going to kill the Hercules myth because once something becomes mythological, it supersedes the events, and it's like, yes, there are elements to Churchill's like the whole Churchill legacy that is embellished, but at the same time, it's embellished because for good reason, because he did do some incredible things. And yes, I do actually agree with them sorry, just really quickly. I do agree with them to some extent that part of the problem with the myth is that for as long as we're stuck within the paradigm, we are always going to we're never going to, you know, the whole what's the law online when someone it's like 3 line. When someone gets called a Nazi, it's like the conversation ends when it gets called.
Oh, Godwin's law. Godwin's
law. That's it.
Yeah. Well,
it's like that exists within the same paradigm. So it's like they want to get free from that, but you're not going to do that by killing the Churchill narrative.
You don't need.
That's my bit.
You don't need to kill the Churchill narrative for that. I mean, it's completely true that the common outlook these days is just do what Hitler wouldn't do. But but you don't see any of them kicking German shepherds in the face, do you?
Don't worry, I do. I eat meat and I love it.
Yeah.
We're not blowing up motorways. There's clearly a lie.
Well, as they say, Hitler liked dogs. Hitler drank water. Therefore, you know, I'm guilty. I also love dogs and drink water.
Wow, you're a Nazi.
I mean my advice.
Anyway,
my advice to the like the sort of anti-Churchill lot, who, for the reasons that you said, Sarah, is they should be trying to claim it for themselves instead, rather than destroy it. Like Churchill was actually on their side. He loved the empire, didn't like Indians, wanted to gas people.
Keep Britain white.
Yes,
was his idea.
That. Yeah.
Like this is your guy.
Said, keep Britain white.
I'm starting to rethink my point now.
You know, like.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have loved you. Don't worry.
To be fair, though, I've been referred to as white passing enough, so I'm close enough.
There you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next one here, the Trojan socialist dork.
Oh, sorry, just to on the last point, and then I'll let it go. But the interesting thing is, like you said, we should be claiming the mantle. We should be claiming the legacy of Churchill, and
well, we are.
The reason that we should is Well, yeah, we do. But what I'm saying is that we should be holding on to that mantle a lot more, because we actually have seen lefty personalities trying to be like, oh no, we're the anti-Nazis, we're the anti-racists, we're the whatever, and it always rings hollow. And the reason it always rings hollow is because, again, these are the people that in the same breath will be like, oh, Churchill was a racist, but we are really the anti-Nazis.
Yeah,
you know,
you can you can be racist and not a Nazi.
yeah, it's hollow. It's so hollow.
It's
but
like
anyway,
it's the joke about if you actually talk to the actual Allied soldiers in 1940s, they wouldn't be on the side of the modern day anti-racist socialists.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Not even remotely.
Yeah, I mean, people are pointing out in chat. Someone's pointed out that before I said plus Hitler was good, I obviously didn't mean that. I meant Hitler was bad. Obviously. Secondly,
clip it, chat. Clip it.
Yeah.
Send it to Zai Yusuf.
Secondly, yeah, Dead End Satellite makes the point. The Churchill hate's just cover for Hitler love, and yeah, that's what it almost always instantly turns into. I mean,
and again, the Hitler love just covers for Jewish hatred.
Well, it's not really a cover, that is it?
Well, no. But
it's a vehicle
for
for
redirection.
it. Yeah, it's a vehicle for it. Yeah.
Yeah, cover's the wrong word.
I have seen some people who they've taken up the hate Churchill stuff while still saying they hate Hitler, but then once they start that down the Churchill was bad route, it always sort of ends up in, well, maybe Hitler wasn't so bad.
It's just pointless.
You know, as a defence against the Nazi remark, could the right wing sort of say, I actually want a small, very accountable government?
No, that makes you a Nazi these days.
Yeah, they called Donald Trump a Nazi for wanting that. They think
if you want a small state, that's a Nazi.
Like, people have called Doge Nazi-like. Like, it's a buzzword.
It's like, Sarah, you hate socialism.
Yeah,
you're Nazi.
Yeah,
but can't they see the contradiction in terms?
No,
they can't. No. They literally can't. This is the problem.
You've been talking about this for like 10 years. Like, they don't care about the contradiction. Anyway,
well, don't normies see the contradiction?
No.
Well, normies don't really care.
Yeah, they can see the contradiction after 3 pints and maybe a couple of hours of chatting.
Nazi just bad man to these people.
But it's when the cogs start turning, when I say, yeah, I treat the hammer and sickle in the same way that I see the swastika. I treat them mentally the same way, and then the cogs start turning. They're like, wait, what? There are other tyrants around the same time. There are other horrific events that happened around the same time. It's like, yes.
But isn't that the point of the anti-Churchill law? I think that should focus on
this is actually the one
not being the greatest evil of all time.
This is actually, this is the point that I often think about, because this is the one valid point that the anti-Churchill lot have, which is that the problem with the Churchill mythology is that or the legend of it is that once you sort of center history around, the middle European mid-century, you do end up losing the wider context of it. And I think two things need to be true at once, right? The mid-century Germans did bad things, but the mid-century Russians also did bad things, and then there were also bad things that happened in Asia, over Cambodia way.
Oh yeah,
multiple things are true at once.
Well, this is the other really funny thing. Another contradiction the Nazi dorks have is, Churchill, like, he was fine carving up Poland and then just giving it to the Soviets, and then the next breath they'll say, "Did you know that he wanted to go have a massive war in secret against the Russians?" It's like, hang on, which is it?
Which is it?
Who stopped that as well? FDR. Oh, the Americans were bad. What a shock! Literally, Britain, the good guys of history, every time.
Yeah. And it's just like, people want to be like, oh, don't you know the English had concentration camps? It's like, yeah, they did.
Yeah, we didn't gas them, though.
We didn't gas them. That is true.
Yeah.
We didn't. And it's just like, yeah, but we were an empire. we can't assume that this strange idea that history is like black and white, and that that there is an entirely good side in history isn't in.
Yes, no,
It's
there
a
is.
monumental.
Sorry, no, I'm not having this.
England,
There is.
England is always the good side.
Britain is the good side. What are you talking about?
No.
You're sounding anti-patriotic. Go on, I know what you mean.
Oh, no, but overall, yeah.
Yeah. No, like
but overall, it's like it's kind of the idea of good men can't. Or was it great men can't always be good men, and England is a great country that wasn't always a good country, but the thing is, we take that in our stride because that is our history and we are proud of it. Well, not maybe proud isn't quite the. Actually, I don't know. I'm pretty proud of most of our history.
Good.
And
it is our history. Hug.
It is our history. It is what made us the way that we are.
Yeah.
Just as a side note, just because this is a rant of mine, and everyone in the chat, all 30 of you, have to listen to it.
Also, it's not a war crime because we won.
True.
Based. Yeah.
Also, all 30 of you need to like the video. Carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, sorry. Actually, I derailed myself. We'll come back to it. I think I forgot my point, but
Can we not? I'm bored of talking about Nazis.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah, we probably should. No, we probably should actually move along. I actually forgot the point I was making. Sorry, I'm running on very little sleep, so
it's fine.
I'm a little bit out of it.
The only thing I'll say is that we've just talked for about 10 minutes about this Nazi lot. My answer to it is just step over them. I don't care about them anymore. Who cares? They just go on about you. Like I'm not being funny.
They're all socialists anyway. Don't worry about it.
I'm not being funny. Whenever I talk to the Homeland guys, whenever I'm in Steve Law's reply, the other day when I did that Homeland video, it's the only time I get called a Jew all day. It happens every time. And I'm on my new account now on Twitter, so they didn't manage to go back and find that tweet where I said I'm Jewish. That comes up. That came up every argument when I was on my old account. And it's
you
the
really
easiest
shouldn't
bit.
have put that.
Why not? It's really funny. It just instantly derails into I hate you because you're Jewish and I'm not even Jewish. It's just it's the easiest bait in the world, and they all fall for it all the time because they're double-digit IQ, emotionally driven morons. Anyway, so the Trojan socialist dork. So this is a George Galloway faction. Obviously, which is a weird one. I don't know why he's put. I kind of know why he's put this on the right, actually, because George Galloway is kind of famous for trying to get the Muslim vote. You what?
Well, George Galloway is famously anti-woke, isn't he?
Well, it's weird because he's anti-woke, but he's trying to get the Muslim vote at the same time, which is
What do you think the Muslims are going to do to the gays?
Well, yeah, I know. Well, it's the funny part of it, isn't it? Well. It's kind of funny because this comes along with the kind of Nazi dork side as well, because they've been talking to Five Pillars and what have you. I think someone mentioned before that Nick Griffin was certainly on there. So was Mark Collette, actually. But this is also... So the current example is Adam Collingwood. For those that don't know who he is, he runs I think it's a podcast that it's basically socialism. It's an SDP podcast, I think. Runs it with a macroeconomist who's like, oh, I hate the global liberal order, and it just means I hate capitalism. Their role model is Clement Attlee. This is definitely true. I still can't get over... who is it? William Coulton, I think it is. He's the leader of the SDP at the moment. He was on a podcast, and I listened to him. Total moron he is. But he was... I think he was asked who his best role models are, and his first one was Clement Attlee. And I'm like, sorry, I thought you kept saying you're right wing. Clement Attlee was on the left quite firmly. But yeah, they're full on socialists. I've seen a lot of these people agree with Ash Sarkar on things like American corporatism ruined British culture, which annoys me every time because I get involved in actual British culture and it's still alive and well. Things like local festivals and things like that. So it does annoy me when they say, because London doesn't have local village festivals, like Britain's over. It's like, what?
No, you're absolutely right. And I remembered the point I forgot earlier, which was that people often sort of say, oh, England has no culture. And it's the most baffling thing because culture is basically the thing that you've done. Culture is the amalgamation of your history. You boil down your history into
the way that you do it.
you boil down your history into a set of actions and activities and personalities, and then there's also the genetic factor. And that is the culture. So it's like people sort of scoff at stuff like fish and chips, for example. Fish and chips,
but it's
is
Jewish.
Is a cultural thing.
It is. It is a cultural thing.
It
did develop from a Jewish recipe. Interestingly, I think it was Jewish refugees from Portugal.
That's fine. Then we have a Jewish cultural icon.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm totally with you. It's just funny because people are like, oh, it's Jewish, it shouldn't be part of it. Anyway, I'm derailing you. Go on.
But no. You're absolutely right though, because well, no, you're wrong. As in, no, wait. Which way around is it's wrong that it shouldn't be a cultural icon. The fact is that. Yeah, that was the rant that I was basically that Harrian managed to save you all from earlier. But the idea that the West has no culture. No, we absolutely have a culture. It just we might not do it with our festivals, but that's mostly down to the fact that we have mistreated our culture, our festivals.
Well, no, sorry. This
England
is my.
Should have a lot of festivals.
Well, this is my problem. We have loads of festivals all the time in summer. It's just everyone likes to pretend we don't have it because they don't happen in London or they don't happen in centre of cities. But they're small village carnivals. Like, why would they be in the middle of cities?
Do you know what I think it is?
People, sorry, go on.
I genuinely think it is. It's like does a fish know it's in water?
No,
I don't think. I think because they're saturated, they don't realise that other parts of the world don't do the things we do. They assume that the world does exactly what we do.
Well, did you? I mean,
it's
the
the
biggest
universal man myth, right?
Yeah,
exactly. That's what it is.
The biggest example I saw of this recently was Callum's recent visit to Wales. Because he was basically just going through the whole thing saying, oh, this is all just basically England. And I was like...
It is.
I was kind of like, not really. Like, because he went... What? The bit that got me was he went to a reservoir that I've been to with Tash in the middle of Wales. And he was talking about, oh, look, they give you a little dragon as a do not disturb sign. But then he's just kind of like, oh, this is a really beautiful place. And then doesn't go into any of the history of it. Because that reservoir was put in place by English industrialists effectively to get water over to the industrial heartlands of England. And it's like, that's kind of actually a massive scar on the countryside to some people in Wales. But he didn't go into that. And that's my sort of thing of, oh, he thinks the whole thing's just English because it has kind of been colonialised by England. And this is why, and it has happened for so long. He talks to that guy who's like, why are you proud to be Welsh? He's like, oh, just so proud to be Welsh. It's just such a proud thing.
Why?
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean. He can't. He's a fish. He's a fish in water. But the problem is that the Welsh and the English are kind of swimming in the same water, so they can't differentiate themselves apart from the language that has been forced on the Welsh anyway, because they never review. As he said, the only reason there's Welsh on the signs is because of devolution. It's only been 25 years that they've had Welsh signs everywhere. It used to only be in certain areas. So, it was quite a funny one. But as you say, it's hard to describe. But the SDP lot are completely on board with capitalism ruined culture. You need socialism to be pro-Britain. Effectively, it's the Peter Hitchens position. But my point back is always, everyone always says the best British culture was during the Empire, during the Victorian period, if you will. We were the most capitalist country in the world for like a century. How do you square that circle? But they never have an answer. But as he says, it's just base socialists, and these could be a bigger problem in the future. But for now, I think we're pretty safe from them because basically,
I would go as far as to say BTFO Germany, Britain was the true successor to Rome. But,
well, yeah. Well, yeah, and we didn't need to do silly salutes for that either.
One of the things I do think we're missing is we don't have any sort of cultural dress. But then you sort of realise we do.
It's just everywhere.
Stole it. The rest of the world took it, so now it doesn't seem special anymore to us.
Suits are definitely British. The
suit, the top hat. I mean, we don't really use the top hat anymore, but I kind of know what you mean though, because
like Japan with like kimonos and stuff. That's like an obviously Japanese thing. It's really nice. But we don't.
They all wear suits.
Anything. Yeah, exactly. Like we don't have anything left that's kind of just ours. But we like
Morris dancing.
Actually, think about it. The no. Like unironically, Morris dancing is a It's a thing.
Yeah,
and
it
I
is.
think
It
that
is. Yeah.
I did it once when I was back with the Scouts. It was actually a load of fun. But no, if you think about it, because I was just thinking about the the Slavic. Obviously, it's something that I
Yeah,
see
they
from time to
all
time.
have cultural dresses. Yeah.
They do, and they even have like regional colors.
Hmm.
But I was also thinking about the whole trad wife phenomenon that happened on like Instagram, TikTok, and whatever.
Mhm.
And if you look at like all those old style dresses, it's essentially the same. Like it's the Western style of
Hmm.
some of those
Yeah.
traditional outfits. We
Yeah.
do have cultural dress. We just choose not
Just
to use it.
Well, no,
well,
we
yeah, and everyone uses it. That's the problem.
well we do. I'm sorry, we do use it. We just use it for special occasions. But that's what every Western country well, not even Western, what every successful country in the world does. You know,
Like the ball gown.
like the ball gown.
The ball gown.
Well,
Yeah.
The Japanese aren't walking around in kimonos all the time, are they?
No.
Sometimes, depending on where you are.
Well, it
They're
depends.
politicians. Not.
Yeah, depending
Yeah, I know what you mean.
depending where you are, you'll have bowler and top hats in place in Britain all the time. I'm sure Jacob Rees-Mogg, for
And
instance.
chat,
Yeah.
just so you know, it's the weirdest feeling getting a draft like when you're not wearing any trousers under the kimono. I was
Well-
wearing underwear, but
Well,
it's a very strange feeling to get the draft.
Well,
I'll just say that.
the Scottish know that better than you, I'd imagine.
Oh, it's true, actually. Yes, it's true.
Anyway,
What's that? The ball gag? No, the ball gown.
anyway. Next up, we have the low IQ populist, patron saint.
This is probably me.
This is
I was gonna
definitely
say,
you.
I resemble this.
This
This
is so me for real.
So, well, this is the reason I've been shouting at Tharium once a week for the past few weeks. So the patron saint is Jared Batten, which, to be fair, I don't really know who else would be that
He
patron
seems
saint.
fine.
So current examples are the Lotus Munchers. Hello, Stelios, if you're watching.
Can I at least can I raise us to mid IQ?
Well, we are mid IQ. Well, Tharium is unironically a level above this because Tharium actually recognises when their arguments turn like nonsense. To be fair
I'm
to
not.
him.
I'm not a Trump cultist either.
Yeah, exactly.
Not a fan of Lawrence Fox and Ben Habib or Calvin Robinson.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm borderline Trump cultist, so I will represent.
Yeah.
I don't like some of the things that Lawrence Fox does. I don't know what he was thinking by burning the
Did he burn a Quran?
LGBTQ flag.
Oh,
I
right.
don't know what that was supposed to achieve.
Well, it's low IQ. It's low IQ. Oh, look at me! I'm gonna get arrested for this. It's like, okay, just you do that.
It's one of those weird things where it's like on one hand, he should be able to do it, but on the other hand, like you said, what is he actually hoping to achieve?
I should be able to people should be able to cheat on their wives. It doesn't mean that they also should do it. Should be free to, I should say. Sorry. Well, I mean, some things shouldn't be illegal, but just because they are.
1 sec, I'm just going to jot this down. One moment.
Yeah. I completely,
I
completely misphrased that, but you know what I mean.
No, I know exactly what you mean. Just still clip it, chat, clip it.
Oh, God, you got me saying Hitler's good. You got me saying cheat on your wife. Like, it's been a nightmare for me today.
This is the new right, guys. This is
the
Tory rebuttal loves Lawrence Fox.
I love Lawrence Fox. Now he endorsed the Tory party. I mean,
Cero counter signals the British Empire. This is a disaster stream.
Let's be absolutely fair here. These are the types of people saying the Tories are flanking reform by saying the exact same things reform were saying for years. Like, it's just... Anyway, role models, MAGA and Trump. Yeah, Trump has shot himself in the foot. It's abysmal. Trump has been so bad, he allowed a comeback for Trudeau's party.
Yeah.
There's just how do you spin that to be good? Oh, he got Dojin and he got rid of US aid. Yeah, I'm not being funny. That's pointless if AOC's president in 4 years, isn't it?
I mean, I would say that AA seems to be like a bit ahead of the curve on this in this sort of circle. Like, he's really turned against Trump, going, This whole thing's just a clusterfuck.
AA. Well, that's because AA isn't low IQ, as shocking as that is for me to say. That's because AA is more the contrarian than he is the low IQ populist.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a category for that, but I always have I found some fur in my mouth.
Okay.
I have a long,
Jeez.
I have a long coat German Shepherd. If anyone wants to know.
Yeah.
What were you?
Why
Why were you eating?
But I was gonna. I'm not. It's just everywhere.
It floats.
It floats. But I was going to say that there's an expression that I like to say, and that there are some things that are so stupid that only a smart person could believe it. I don't know who originally coined it, but I think it's so true, and I think that AA is one of he falls into that category like very easily. There are some perspectives that you could only get to if you're incredibly intelligent. You also see the same with who's the guy, the mathematician. He uses the term woke right.
Oh, James
James
Lindsay.
James Lindsay. Yeah.
People give him a lot of crap, but he is actually right about a lot of stuff. But he also comes up with a lot of nonsense because he's so incredibly intelligent.
It's the problem. When he's bad, he's really bad. When he's good, he's really good. I think he really needs someone to filter his tweets. Like, he put one out the other day where he's like, oh, people didn't really know how bad communism was at the time. It's like, no, we did. They killed our king's cousins. We knew they were bad.
Are you saying he needs the drunk app that monitors your tweets? Like, are you sure you want to put that out?
James Lindsay needs a leash on him. That's all I'm saying.
Just needs just a secretary or something. To be fair, I could probably do with one as well.
Yeah. So, anyway,
my wife will often say, you're so intelligent, and this is how you choose to use it. And I'm just like balancing like a shoe on my head or something. It gets very silly.
So,
sorry, carry on.
It's fine. So, the characteristics of Trump cultism, the dog whistle ethnic nationalism. They love
hold on.
Yeah, you don't
dog whistle.
Yeah, you don't dog whistle. You're just out with
it. Just speak plainly. Yeah.
Nah, but the others don't. Well, Calvin Robinson probably doesn't.
So one of my wife's lefty friends comes over and I'm wearing a MAGA hat. Unironically, it's just like there's no dog whistling going on.
That might actually be a point. I think the point is less that they're intentionally dog whistling ethnic nationalism. They just do it and don't realise. Like Ben Habib, for example, and Calvin Robinson. They've definitely gone along with things that are a bit like,
Calvin
but you
Robinson
wouldn't be here.
Calvin Robinson is the type who'd say, yeah, kick out all the blacks. Wait a second, not me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ben Habib says I'm kind of like the turkey voting for Christmas on this, but it is important that we do it.
Yeah, he goes on about that. He's like, oh, you need to go on about demographics. It's like, wait a minute, this whole operation you're a result of.
Yeah.
Arguably, at least Calvin and Ben at least have an English mother.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Ben Habib. I know he's been a bit of a lolcow. He did do an Easter video with his mum, which was quite sweet, though.
Well, good for him. Do you know who else has an English mother? Aaron Bastani.
Ooh. Nah. Take them all out.
It is quite funny. I had to mention it in today's video. But Aaron Bastani only started calling himself Aaron Bastani when he was like 30.
Really?
Yeah, his name's Aaron Peters, but he went to Aaron Bastani after he found out his dad's name, and he basically wanted to be less Anglo.
And he says that racism is holding him back.
I made this exact point. Yeah, which is probably why he's trying to pivot more to the he really is more of a socialist Trojan dork now. That's what Aaron Bastani's pivoted to.
He did become a father, which seems to have been the big change for him.
I don't actually, but he's still a mad socialist, so I don't know if he has changed.
I know,
I think he's just better at lying about it.
You're just getting there.
I think that unironically there is an effect that having a family, it will make you even a little bit if he's full commie, then he's probably never going to go full right wing, but you will move more conservative if you are responsible for a family. I think it's a natural side effect.
Yeah.
When Churchill said that as you grow older, you become more. He never
said that.
Did he not? Or was it apocryphal?
No, I think it's one of those quotes that people say and just assume assume Hitler said it. No, assume Churchill said it.
Oh wow! Clip it, chat.
But yeah, because it doesn't make sense.
No,
it doesn't make sense for Churchill because he was actually more conservative when he was younger. So it doesn't make sense.
You tend to be more sort of assured.
I think so. Yeah.
He was in the Liberal Party.
Was it?
When he was young, he was in the Liberals.
Well, there's a reason that the quote doesn't make sense from. I can't remember what it is. Well, whatever. I know he didn't say it. That's the main point.
Sure.
Anyway, conspiracy theories. I mean, they obviously go into that quite a lot. You know, there's certain people in the Lotus Eaters who like their conspiracy theories.
Yeah, it's just a shame that they don't last more. I was going to say it's a shame. I like them while they last. They just don't last more than 6 months.
Well,
yeah, they're always true.
it's just especially recently. Yeah. It's just
I don't.
Just wait 3-6 months. You're fine.
I'm gonna throw this out there. I think America landed on the moon. I think the moon landing was real.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, but it's longer than 6 months now. So the 6 month threshold has passed, and so therefore it turned out to be true. There you go. That's how it works.
Yeah.
What conspiracy? Because we have to be careful on conspiracy theories and everything. I feel like maybe the three of you might think that I'm more prone to conspiracy theories than anyone else here on this panel.
Oh, I'm very. No,
Tharium's nuts. I mean, I think Gammon's.
I'm not prone to anything. I'm just right. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, Gammon Easter worshipper will. You know, his definition for conspiracy theories will be probably slightly looser than mine, we'll say. But there are definitely people who go down conspiracy routes that are just kind of nonsense from the start and never turn out to be true. They just never go on about it because they want to forget it.
Well, you know, I'm part of the, I'm very much the anti-net zero, and if you want to go down conspiracy theory, speaks to the anti-net zero. So that's why I'm bringing that up. But so far, the anti-net zero conspiracy theories is they're going to block out the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I told you it's 6 months. You gotta wait for the threshold.
And it's sort of like that they're all slowly coming true, aren't they? You know,
I mean, I don't think the blocking out the sun. I remember hearing about blocking out the sun at uni from my uni professor. That seems to be a thing they've talked about for a while. I don't think that's particularly.
Just remember, cloud seeding doesn't happen until it did, and then it's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the thing. Did they ever deny this stuff?
I'm pretty sure they did it first.
It was a dangerous conspiracy theory just a few months ago.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like all of us so-called conspiracy theorists, we can point to videos of people in prominent positions going, "Yeah, we think we should block out the sun," and we go, "Look, they're saying it," but we're still the conspiracy theorists.
I think people's issue. Go on.
I was going to say there's a difference. Again, conspiracy theory is a very large blanket, and there's a difference between people who look at data and say, or they look at something that seems to have credible evidence, but isn't adopted mainstream.
Yeah,
which is one party.
Yeah,
and then I saw like a tweet from an account that came up yesterday, and I believe it wholeheartedly. There are two extremes to this for sure.
Yeah, like
this
net zero
conspiracy theory.
I was just going to say, yeah. I was literally just going to say, lizard people aren't the same as net zero conspiracies.
Yeah, but does Dan believe in the lizard people thing?
Probably.
I mean, they make a good point.
I would say on the thing like the blocking of the sun's kind of the more recent example. Well, all right. Let me put it this way, Mercian, with the blocking of the sun thing. Like, what do you think their plan is, and how do you think they're going to implement it, and what do you think's bad about it? I guess the three questions.
I should actually say dimming of the sun rather than the blocking of the sun, to be fair. But like, for so long within the net zero lot, they've been talking about contrails for a long time.
God, I know.
But the contrails are actually doing exactly what they say. But essentially, they're going to pump sulfides into the air to cloud seed and dim the sun.
Yeah, it makes the clouds more reflective as well. Which, just from what I know, again, I heard about this idea at university, and the only reason they weren't doing it is because it was too expensive. As I say, this doesn't seem like one of those conspiracy theories that's particularly well hidden to me. And to be honest with you, I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea.
What?
Well, why do you think it's a bad idea?
Okay, chat, kick Harrion. We're kicking Harrion. Right, 1 sec.
Pumping God knows how many tons of chemicals into the atmosphere to block out what little sun we get when we are one of the least sunny places on Earth.
I'm not being funny, but it was 29 degrees in the field with the horses today. I'd be happy with a cloud. But do you remember
we might be getting snow next week, so just be patient.
Yeah, I know it's not. Well, that's kind of standard April, isn't it? But I can't bring myself to get worked up about this when, I've heard about this before. The scientists, let's say, literally when I was at uni and learning about climate change and all that, it's like, there are ways we can probably circumvent it that are probably quite cheap. The problem is they're all dead expensive at the moment, carbon capture and storage, for example, or, blocking out the sun with, because they were like, oh, yeah. I mean, I think they even mentioned chemtrails in my uni degree as well. They were like, yeah, they've tried affecting weather as well. We're just trying to finalise that and make it cheap. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Why are you thinking that this is a good thing? Yes.
I was going to say, just leave the weather alone.
Because I think terraforming is really based. Like, I really want to be able to colonize Mars.
Terraform the Earth. It's already terraformed.
Nah, you can always make improvements on nature. You can always make improvements on nature. I would love Australia to be a rainforest again.
Like COVID-19? That was the improvement on nature.
Yeah, it was. You're right.
The arid places in the world are greening because the amount of carbon.
That is very true. That is very I know. We do actually have a kind of carbon deficit. Not a carbon deficit. We're in a carbon low to usual.
I need a V8. End of story.
So the problem you have is that when the climate does change rapidly, typically it's correlated with mass extinction events, which we've already kind of gone through as humans because we hunted everything.
At the very least, the socialists will go, so that's okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Harrian's selling me on the lizard people conspiracy theory.
That's
what it's all about. They want to terraform Earth into a more suitable climate for lizards.
But just to take a step back quickly, the Mercian, I think that's the point that I actually am more on edge about, which is it's not necessarily that we need to pump chemicals into the atmosphere because it's going to save the planet. It's specifically they need to do this and question mark, this is why you can't have your car, and they need to you can't eat your meat, you can't
that's where the issue comes in. Like that's all nonsense. Putting some sulfide in the air to make clouds a bit whiter and make slightly more of them, I'm just like fine.
Also, build more solar panels while blocking out the sun.
I mean that is quite funny. That is funny.
Spain moving it to 100% reliable energy. All the politicians tweeting about it. What an achievement!
I love.
3 weeks later,
I love the Freudian slip there. You call it 100% reliable, and then blackout. You meant renewable. Yeah. And then it's out. I might make a video on that actually. That's when net zero stuff gets nuts.
Oh, wait. Do we class that as rolling blackouts, or does it have to be in the UK?
It has to be in the UK. Did we already cross it out? Can't remember. Anyway, I didn't want to go down a conspiracy theory rabbit hole. Long story short, people in category 4 are based. We can carry on to category 5. Hate Zelensky. I don't, schizophrenic, certainly feels that way. Lawrence Fox is definitely schizophrenic.
I mean, I feel like that way some days.
Ben Habib's all over the place. 0 seats as well. Like, silly.
Also, Dooge in chat, that is 100% true, and I love that. Spain-Portugal blackout has ended the net zero argument. Yes, absolutely. Well, if only it'd be true. Only it be true.
I'm definitely sticking to my terraforming is based position there.
We can terraform at
I'm
Harren's house. And...
Obi-Wan Kenobi on the whole net zero argue. They're easily start up with a bit of backing greater numbers. You watch.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I failed you, Anakin.
Yeah. No. The jar was that they're easy start up with the backing greater numbers of sand people. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on, complaining about warm weather, fatty. I'll have you know, I'm not fat anymore. So
I've started
final.
losing weight as well now. So
Well done.
there you go.
Well done.
Thank you.
Right, finally, the obvious Russia shill. The patron saint is Tucker Carlson. Any arguments against this? Tucker.
Well, he visited the place, and I think he was just impressed by how well they're doing.
Yeah, but
I mean, he got the usual tour that they give in like places like North Korea, Russia.
I was gonna say, like, people
yeah.
visit North Korea, and, they get a special tour.
The one thing that annoyed me about his trip was it's a very small detail, but it's a very obvious detail. He was commenting on how cheap the groceries were, and did not bother to convert
to dollars,
rubles, and US. Yeah. That was one of my personal gripes, because I know, for example, I've spoken to Russians. I know people in like Czech or Czech Republic or whatever.
Yes, officer, this man here. Go on.
Yeah, and so it's like it's easier to do everything in dollar values, but it's not actually useful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the multi-millionaire American thinks it's cheap. The Russian peasant does not.
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, their energy is cheap, but that's about it.
So, the current example is Morgoth and Tim Pool. Wasn't it? I never looked into the Tim Pool stuff.
I wouldn't say Tim Pool is really.
No, he was just like tangentially related to that whole Lauren Chen thing.
Yeah. Lauren Chen was getting money from Russians, and she put up like buying videos from people, including Tim Pool, and Tim Pool didn't know where the money was coming from.
Also, Morgoth.
Wow.
Why is he here? From the little that I know about Morgoth, isn't he more like Tradcath?
It's because no, he's not Tradcath.
He's very anti-Ukraine.
Yeah.
But he posts it. He posts it as the idea of just being neutral.
What am I thinking of?
Clearly isn't.
You're not thinking of that guy who died, are you?
No, that's that was the guy who. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. He went to Ukraine and then did like anti-Ukraine stuff. Coach Red Pill.
Yeah. Just an obvious Russian agent.
And it's like, it's so stupid. Like you could say, like he's going, oh yeah, Ukraine's a really corrupt, awful country, and then you're going to go there and talk about that.
What do
you
go
think's
to
going to
Poland
happen?
and talk about? Yeah, I was going to say go to Poland and talk about it there.
You see this bear? You see this bear trap? I'm going to put my foot in it. Oh I've been mauled by a bear.
I mean, it is sad. But...
Ukraine is corrupt. He gets that it's corrupt. So why are you doing this?
I am idiot. You say it's sad. I have absolutely no sympathy for someone that stupid.
The reason I find it sad is because like Spoon, and he streams with Aiden Paladin, I can't remember what her name is, but they were actually friends of his, and so that's why I think it's sad to some extent. But it was completely of his own making.
No sympathy, idiot. Like Darwin Award.
Like it's like a Jew.
It is Darwin Award.
It's a Jew going to Nazi Germany, going, "Geez, this Hitler guy's pretty bad."
Well, there were literally people like that.
Yeah,
I was about to say, like, what's the like Soros? Am I allowed to say names? Like,
oh God.
Wasn't Stalin as equally contemptible against the Jews as well?
Yeah, he killed a bunch of them as well. Not as many, but yeah.
Yeah, but nobody ever talks about the good things.
I mean, Stalin killed more Russians than anyone else, really.
More communists than a lot of people, yeah. Anyway, Morgoth's in this list because there's some guy who basically, I don't want to say stalks, but certainly goes into detail on it, and he's basically got this theory that Morgoth, because he gets a load of super chats and what have you, he basically thinks they're a load of Russian accounts, paying him to keep saying it effectively, and that, to be honest, Tim Pool was obviously tangentially involved in the Lauren Chen thing, which I was like today, why is Lauren Chen Like, why she not got a Twitter account? And now you've reminded me.
Yeah.
So.
Oh no, I'm thinking of Charlemagne, the guy that goes under Charlemagne.
Oh yeah, is he still about?
He's about, but I haven't heard from him recently. But I remember that he's more of the Tradcath or more sort of Catholic right wing. That's the guy I was thinking.
Well, you
of,
say,
not Norwich.
I mean, I don't particularly like him either, but he's.
I mean, Catholic is a very broad brush, to be fair.
Well,
When you talk about Tradcath, I always think of the distributist.
Distributist is that's I think sort of tangential. Like if there's like a Venn diagram, they have a very
well,
they have a lot of crossover.
Well, he's definitely on this side anyway. But also, yeah, Dave. Oh no, I don't know if Dave Smith's on this side necessarily. I'm not sure what his opinion on Russia is, but I will. They kind of all intermix with these opinions, don't they?
It's funny that you
this
get
is why
some
they're
of
fracturing,
the,
right?
Yeah, it's funny you get some of the Nazi simps also are now pro-Russia. You're doing it wrong, buddy. You're not supposed to be. You can't combine these two.
The Nazi simps say they're on the side of Russia, who says that Ukraine is full of Nazis. What? Admires Putin but may have a soft apologist spot for Hitler. Yeah, that's true. Fascism but without principles. Ukraine is woke and Nazi. Reads elite theory. Will sell their soul for a ruble. Which these aren't. I wouldn't say these are necessarily perfect descriptions all the time. Some people fit more areas than others, we'll say.
Yeah.
But I think the reason I mainly wanted to go through all this is because we've got a fracturing the right, and even the dork right fractures, but nobody cares about people in the dork right.
I mean, everyone fractures though.
Like, yeah, of course.
Which is the group with the ethno-nats though?
Probably.
Which was the group with the ethno-nats? This one.
Literal Nazi dorks, and then to be honest, they're all kind of ethno apart from contrarian dorks. Not so much. It's a bit of a weird one.
From the
Peter Hitchens isn't an ethno, but Pete North is, so it's kind of all of them. Another term for the dork right is just the ethno-nationalist right, because it was a term that I effectively just tweeted out as a joke to mean the dissident right, because that's what they wanted to call themselves, because it sounded edgy.
Because alt-right originally, from what I understood,
that was Richard Spencer's thing, yeah.
Yeah, that was the Richard Spencer thing. And the idea was that you kind of basically had this softy, sort of limp, flaccid, wet, Tory right kind of thing, and you wanted the alternative to that. And that was we're the actual right wing. We're the ones that actually care about this stuff.
It actually came about because of Steve Bannon, and all it meant was not. It meant not a neocon. That's all it meant. Yeah. And then
it was very loose. I remember.
Yeah, and then Richard Spencer had a big faction that was full of dork righties. Someone's asked in the chat, what's dork right? It's all of these factions. It's contrarians that just want to lose all the time. It's Nazi sympathisers. It's people like it's basically I think just any ethno-nat. They probably fit into one of these categories.
You can't really put George Galloway on the right. He's definitely a leftist. The only thing right wing about George Galloway is he's anti-woke. That's it.
George Galloway's most base thing was telling Hamza Yusuf that he's not Scottish. That's like the most base thing he did. And he did it on ethnic lines. So
imagine the. Oh, sorry.
It's fine. I'm done.
So imagine. So James Lindsay got a lot of crap for his woke right analogy. I think that he necessarily wasn't right in what he was calling woke right, but I definitely think the woke right is a real thing. And imagine looking at the left, right? So if you want to know what the dork, sorry, I'm biting my tongue again. If you imagine what the dork right is. Imagine, like how the left is eating itself. Mm-hmm. You've got the multiple factions with the purity spiraling within the left. Mm-hmm. The purity spiraling within the left. Mirror it over to the right. That is basically the dork right.
Well, the funniest part of it is the left purity spiraled with institutional backing of like media and of universities. Like they had multiple angles to do it from.
Yeah.
The funny thing about the right is that the only power they have at the moment is effectively the American government.
Well, the zeitgeist shifted, and
the vibes have shifted, and they're instantly trying to ruin it. And this is why I want them stepped over, because they're idiots.
And you guys will remember from the offset, I was losing my absolute mind.
Rag.
We're going to be nice. Yes, yeah, we're being good on this channel. I was losing my mind about the fact that the second that the winds changed, suddenly we're at each other's throats. And I think that my mistake was that I was thinking, okay, yes, us on the right have had some very strange bedfellows, but we needed to get the winds to change. Then the winds changed. And then I'm thinking, okay, why are we suddenly at each other's throats? It's like, well, actually, we don't really have that much in common with an awful lot of people. And that was the problem that the left had, because they realized, oh, we have like cultural hegemony, but we want things to go this way or that way and whatever. And then they fractured.
Yeah.
And but I'm worried, because you mentioned that the left had institutional backing. We don't. So if we fracture, that is the one worry that I have. If we fracture, then we are essentially just we are very indivisible, very is that the right word?
Very divided.
Do we lose? Do we lose the momentum that we have if we fracture? That is my question.
Well, the counterpoint here is obviously, the right has momentum in reform. It's just with an awful lot of the dork right types, put them in any of these camps and they don't fit in reform, because reform effectively, why I think this is actually a good thing is reform and people on the, more sensible right, I guess I'll call it, can just point at these factions and say, that's where the weirdos go. Like, we're normal and actually electable. That's where the weirdos you're worried about are. Like in the video today with Aaron Bastani talking to people in Runcorn, and there are people still saying, "Oh, Farage is a racist," blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, this is perfect. Like, no, they're all over there. They all left. They want to go too far.
I think Farage is gaining more points from people thinking he's a racist.
I don't know. If he is, it's
Tharium.
It is.
Tharium never change.
I
don't really know why you'd say that though.
Well, because what I've realised is, I think what you sort of that you said we've always been welcoming. No, we haven't been. What we've always been is polite. We've always been polite to the foreigners. Doesn't mean we want them around
Behind
us.
closed doors, yeah. Behind closed doors, though.
Yeah, we'll be polite, and we've always been polite. That's our thing.
I've always.
We don't want them living near us.
I've always had it in comparison with other countries. Obviously, there's a limit.
Okay.
And obviously, I don't mean the leftist open your door for everyone.
The end of the 19th century, there was a bunch of Jews were getting killed in Russia. So thousands of them start coming to America and Britain. Mm-hmm. Do you think we were happy about that? The people were happy about that?
No, of course. It caused some issues.
No, It was the same thing. They're taking our jobs. They're rising housing prices. They don't fit in. They speak funny languages. They smell bad. And so, everyone hated these new Jews fleeing murder. And so eventually you get the 1905 Aliens Act, which just allowed the government to get rid of them all and say, no, you can't come in. And in Wales, they started distributing the shit out of Jews again.
There were a few mini pogroms. Yeah, I'm well aware.
Oh, we've got a lot of pogroms in our history, and that's because you subscribe to like the Tony Blair, right? That history before the 19th century didn't exist. But even after that, like we really don't like the foreigners.
Well, to be fair, to be fair to me, Tony Blair's idea is that history before 1990 didn't exist. At least I say 1890.
1950, we're a damn near pure ethno state. Like that's not people who are welcoming to foreigners. We're just polite.
The country certainly was. Areas like London were. Fucking like nothing like today. Obviously,
London was 99% native British.
There were, I think it's something like 20,000 black people in London in the 19th century.
When the town that she lived in, there were 3 black people, one of which ended up being her husband. Long story short, but there were literally 3.
Yeah,
that they knew of.
Any. Yeah.
No. That's fine. That's welcoming. Go on,
I
Mercian.
tell the story.
but-
First time
but
I
I
met
think-
a black man when he was a child, he screamed.
Mm.
He thought it was the devil.
Or
That's
cancelled.
how rare it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my mum always tells me about how my grandma would be really embarrassed by my auntie, because whenever she was young, she'd be like, "Look, mummy, a black man." Just point it out, and my grandma was always like, "Shh, stop it, that's rude."
You can't say that. Yeah.
Yeah. And even that was
I mean,
back
me-
in the 60s, 70s.
I mean, me and John have mentioned that in my school of over 1,000 kids, there was one
Like-
Cambodian kid and one black kid.
Yeah, when I say welcoming, I mean on an individual level. There are obviously people complaining that when they look at coat hooks in the school, they see one Peter and a million names they don't recognise as, names they'd be hearing when they were a child, let's say.
I think that
Yeah.
the point is, again, the polite term is actually a lot better
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
we are actually quite similar in some respects, except that I think we're dignity culture and Japan is a honor culture. I think.
Yeah.
I can never remember which
I
way
mean,
around it is.
Yeah,
But,
like we're
but
not.
for example, oh,
I was
sorry.
just going to say, we're not even welcoming to people from other areas of the country.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, the North is.
You say that this is literally a
Manchester-
panel. This is
Manchester,
literally a panel.
Liverpool.
This is literally a panel of people from 4 different, completely different areas of the country.
But we don't
No,
live together.
We do this. We hate our neighbours.
not
like
yet.
Black Country, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool. It's Sunderland, Newcastle. You name it.
And like the worst is, imagine a Londoner moves in. Oh,
Oh, good
God.
lord.
What does?
Oh,
Hang on. So I've just read. Dude just asked in chat. What does an unfractured right look like? Think of the past 4 years. That's it.
Strange bedfellows.
Yeah. Past 4 years
Strange
was
bedfellows.
generally unfractured. I mean, I've not been a fan of AA for a while, obviously, but I
There
wouldn't
have
counter
always been
signal him.
tensions, Yeah.
I didn't
There have
counter
always
signal him
been
like I do.
tensions.
No, yeah. I mean, God, did any of you see the AA tweet to me today where he basically asked,
Yeah.
why is Farage doing this thing on potholes? And I'm like, are you an
I
idiot?
haven't been on Twitter except for to check out VTuber here. Was it VTuber drama? Sorry, I didn't see the tweet.
That's fine.
That Cinder stuff, you'll have to tell me about that.
I honestly, man, I've been up to date with it. It is wild.
Anyway, but I mean, say what you will. Quite clearly, the mainstream right is rejecting ethno-nationalism again.
I don't
the
know.
weird thing. I don't think it should. This
Yeah.
is the weird thing. I have a very weird. There we go, chat. Yeah, we know Cinder. Rip Cinder. No. The weird thing is that there is a space for something along the lines. There is a Venn diagram with the ethno-nationalists. Not all of it, but we shouldn't have none of it.
Allow me to rephrase the open,
Clip it.
like the open 100%. There's no such thing as civic nationalism, ethno-nuts. Then there are plenty of people that basically everyone understands that between civic nationalism and ethno-nationalism, it's a conversation in the past, and basically there's obviously a bit of both. The rejection is of those people who reject any sort of civic nationalism because it's ridiculous, especially when Homeland have a treasurer whose last name is O'Malley or whatever, some Irish name. Yeah,
I think the best way I can describe it. Oh, sorry, Mercian, just really quickly. The best way I can describe it is English. England should be for the English, and also Britain should be for the British. That's the best way I can describe it.
Then the other thing, we shouldn't have at least 5 cities in England.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere in England should be majority English. You foreigners are welcome to live here, but it should be majority English in England. There should be no areas.
Well, most people do agree with that. They just don't necessarily say it out loud.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I say.
If Tharium vindicated again.
Then that's what I mean.
Yeah,
That's
what I've been saying. Yeah. People think Farage is more racist than he is. That's helping him.
Is it? I wouldn't argue it's racism. I'd say racism is when you say, a black person can't be English, for example, something like that. Oh, but they can't.
Yeah, they can't.
Well, no, people don't agree with that. Like, that's not what people don't mean.
I think they do.
No, generally people think Ian Wright's English.
I think Rishi Sunak going, I'm English. I think a lot, even if they're not saying it, a lot of people are going, nah.
I don't think so. I've literally never met a person in real life who's
That's because you're one
had
of
issues.
they can tell you're one of these people who's just going to call them racist.
No.
I mean, I can show you I can sort of say the inverse, right? Like, I remember I went to Poland one time, and the guy at the border, he looked at my passport, and my passport, it showed like country of origin, and he looked at me a bit confused, looked down, and went, "You're from here?" And I went, "Yeah." And he went, "Oh." Sort of looked at me a bit inquisitively, and went, "Okay, fine." Then I didn't get held up by customs, but it was just the fact that I do not look like I am from the country that I'm from, and that's for a reason. That people, you can be born here, but the thing is, again, the English has a distinction. The English look has a distinction.
Yeah, nobody's ever looked at me and go, "So where are you from?" No, where are you really from?
Yeah,
like that's never happened to me.
Do you know what? Sargon put out one of my most favourite videos of late when he talks about the town of Warsaw, which is in the Black Country. And he was talking about this Pakistani man complaining there was too many Polish there, and he felt displaced. And it's sort of like it's just beautifully ironic.
Just hilarious, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, my dad would often complain about foreigners, and I was just like, "Dad, you're
That's another really funny thing. Like, first generation immigrants are some of the most anti-immigrant people in the country. It's crazy.
This is true. I can verify this firsthand.
Well, they used to
So
be.
true.
They used to be. Then we let in all the scum.
Well, yeah. Well, that's what I mean. That's what the issue is. People want the scum gone.
First generation legal immigrants. There you go.
Yeah. Yes. Quite. And yeah, I this always seems controversial for some reason, but Dooge is basically right. Britain is inextricably multicultural, given it's a mixture of Scottish, Irish, Welsh, and English, with the English being the overarching one.
It's a result of the empire, isn't it? It's
a
result of the empire.
Well, yeah, it's like coronation chicken. I'm pretty sure that was a recipe that was kind of an amalgamation of effectively different cuisines put together. It's basically sultana curry with chicken. Tastes horrible, by the way. Hate it, but staple sandwich. I don't like sultanas, I think. But just because you've got coronation chicken made from all these different cuisines doesn't mean you need people like, I don't know, these independent Gazan MPs in power in Parliament. Like, people obviously don't want that. I mean, that's another thing. Everyone's against the idea of an Indian coming over and having the right to vote straight away. People just don't know it exists. The Indians themselves don't know it exists. Yeah, pretty much straight away. Yeah, they can vote.
Having the vote at all.
Well, this is where the problem comes in.
I'm pretty sure that my wife doesn't have the right to vote in a general election.
Well, that's because she's not Indian,
Or
any
any
Commonwealth country. Yeah, I know. So it's the issues. I've said it millions of times before. When people are voting for someone, they don't want to feel like they're voting for a Nazi. That's the end all and be all of it. Like, that's what reform has been avoiding forever.
We shouldn't vote for socialists. You're right.
They just need to. I feel like if Enoch Powell was around today, his message would resonate a lot stronger, because he's the one who's saying these things, but he's not. The problem, like Nick Griffin and stuff, they just come off as lol cows, and all the Homeland lol cows. If you had someone serious and intelligent, articulate, then I think they could get along.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The Rivers of Blood speech was a civic nationalist speech, so get wrecked.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you also say, like, we've always been welcoming. I mean, his constituents weren't very welcoming.
Yeah, Wolverhampton constituents.
Yeah.
Look,
They weren't-
they were welcoming of
Wolverhampton's
the.
not far behind Birmingham. I
They
don't want to look at the demographics, but I'll tell you now.
How about this as a thought? Oh, sorry, Harry and Karen, you wanted to make.
well, each person in that speech is effectively, well, at first I was welcoming, and then I wasn't.
Yeah, they
like
were
there's
polite.
there's obviously a point where it should stop,
what I think.
and they've been asking for it to stop for 50 years.
Yeah.
Like I'm with
But
you
they
on that.
They were polite. They were never happy about it.
I
They were
don't
polite.
like
Would
never
you class it as a-
never
Karen, would you
happy
call it a
about
stiff
it.
upper lip?
Yes.
Never
Would you
happy.
call it a step up? Yeah.
I'm never happy about it. I reject that framing of it. You know, they are unhappy with the amount of people going in certain areas. The problem is that the too many people in certain areas has both massively expanded to the point where there's no getting around it anymore. Yeah.
I guess one interesting way of looking at it, right? If Enoch Powell was a Zoomer, no, okay, this is a terrifying
if
idea,
Enoch
but
Powell was a Zoomer, he'd be on PIP and not working. Like, but anyway,
Well,
carry on.
He'd
I
be
mean-
trans probably.
I'm still thinking to this point. I still feel like a mug for not going on PIP. But anyway,
We can still go on it.
but
Anyway,
as I've said, if the taxes go up, I'll consider it. But if Enoch Powell was a Zoomer, would he be on Stormfront? I don't even know if Stormfront's still around, but would he be on Stormfront? Would he be on 4chan? Would he be on Facebook? Would he be on Twitter? That's
I
kind
think-
of.
I think he'd
I think
definitely be a 4chan for the lols.
Would he be a 4chan guy?
I don't.
Which part of these 5 demographics do you think Enoch Powell would fall into?
I think that this is an interesting way of like scoping it back into the fracturing of the right. Like Enoch Powell was considered like semi-edgy for his time,
He's
semi-edgy
probably-
depending.
He's
but
probably
he-
a bit of the contrarian dork.
Contrarian dork.
I mean, Harry, you're not going to like this, but I feel like Enoch Powell is a lot like Robert Lowe.
Why does everyone get his name wrong? For God's sake,
Oh
it's
my
happening
ears.
again.
Oh,
I keep
it's
saying Robert.
happening.
Sorry, it's Rupert.
Rest in peace.
I'm
headphone
sorry.
user.
I'm sorry. I don't follow politics all that. I've got other problems in my life right now.
Every
I
time.
keep on doing it.
Every time. Like, this whole situation has fractured the right and ruined reform. Can't even get the name.
The worst part
Fractured
is,
the right so
Harry,
hard that
the
Rupert
worst
turned
part
into
is-
Robert.
The worst
Sorry,
part
carry
is,
on.
Harry, you keep on saying anyone who's for Rupert Lowe, you put me as them. Like, number one, I do it on vibes. I don't know what's going on. And number two, I keep getting his name wrong. I don't represent the rest of the people on Rupert Lowe's side.
Yeah, but everyone else on his side. Well, but you know, not everyone. A lot of people who say he's on his side keep getting it wrong as well. I've seen it in real life as well. I've seen I've heard the Rupert Lowe thing come up like 3 times, I think, when I've been leafleting for reform. Everyone gets his name wrong. It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it. I don't.
Rupert's quite a rare name, and I keep on
But
doing
that-
Robert. I don't know why.
But
I don't know why.
But given it's such a unique name, to me that means you shouldn't
It's a good
confuse it
English
as
name.
much. Well, yeah, that as well. But
I'm gonna make a Twitter account called Robert Lowe.
I'm
Be my new persona. Yeah.
I don't think Enoch Powell is like Rupert Lowe for quite a few reasons.
What I mean is you have to speak to his constituencies. Whatever the constituencies ask of Rupert does. And I feel like Enoch Powell was the same.
Yeah. Well, Enoch Powell spoke to his Indian constituencies in Urdu. I don't think Rupert's quite gone that far, but no, I've never had an issue with him being a good MP in terms of how good they are within the political sphere. I mean, maybe they are like each other because I guess Enoch Powell kind of threw away any chance he had of power with that speech. Unfortunately, it's a good speech, but he
kicked out the Tory party for it. So
well, exactly.
There's a lot of crossover there.
Well, exactly. It's like, well, and what happened to Enoch Powell in the end? Well, he didn't get what he achieved, unfortunately, and he probably could have if he bided his time. Unfortunately, as I say.
I think, Harry, and that's why a lot of people have sided for Rupert Lowe. Sorry if I keep getting his name wrong. I keep on saying
Rupert Lowe's
You
correct.
got
I
it
think that,
right there.
just as an aside, sorry, just really quickly, I think that it might be because there's a Richard Tice, and it's very easy to get those names mixed up.
Yeah, but you didn't call him Richard.
Yeah.
You don't call him Richard?
No, you called him Robert.
Robert?
I keep calling Rupert Lowe Robert. I don't know why.
It's probably Robert. It's probably Robert Jamrick.
Oh, probably actually. I was just see, even I got it wrong. I got the correction wrong.
Urdu is Pakistan's language. Yeah, but some people in the Punjab, speak Urdu as well. I think.
Yep.
I read it in his biography, so there you go. Here's the other another reason that I've gone. This actually is a rather mainstream fracturing the right, obviously. The other reason I just step over Rupert Lowe at the moment. All his Twitter account has been for the past 2 months is counter-signaling reform. Now I know the argument could be, well, to be fair, reform has stabbed him in the back, which I still think is actually yet to be seen with in terms of the bullying allegations. As far as I'm concerned, reform didn't do anything wrong there. In terms of the threats, the police investigation's still going on, so I don't know if they were made up yet. However, his whole thing has been counter-signal reform, which is the only alternative to the Tory party. My question to you would be, if it turns out this whole time he was working for the Tory party and joins them, what then?
I'll be livid. I'm with Harry and to some extent on this, where I actually, in some respects, I don't really care what the outcome is, but the fact is that we need to win. And the whole fracturing of, I know it's a very sort of cynical take, but the reason that the fracturing of the right worries me to the extent that it does is the fact that at the end of the day, we need to win. We need to have a sensible majority, and we need to have a clean victory so that we can start righting the wrongs. And so for me, I don't mind if the right fractures, but I kind of didn't want it to happen so soon.
I'm on the side of it's probably a good thing, because even in the
probably is, but it rubs me the wrong way.
Well, even in politics can be a nasty game, unfortunately, and people are going to have to get kicked out if they're not worth the trouble. But when it comes, reform, as far as, especially with Nigel, even in the texts that have leaked of him, every time his main complaint about Rupert Lowe is he's damaging the party, that's not good for our elections, we need to win. Rupert Lowe's whole thing since leaving the damn thing, even before he left with that interview, it was damaging to the party. He seemed to be more in it for selfish reasons. And after gathering my thoughts after the 2 months of this, Rupert Lowe has only been on Dan Wootton's show since this whole debacle. He's not been on Talk TV, even Talk TV, which is alternative media still. He's not been on GB News. He's not been on any mainstream panel like he was, which you can say, oh, that's because he's an independent. Maybe. I would be shocked if GB News haven't wanted it on. Talk TV obviously definitely will have wanted it on, but he was never on. He's a guy who's got this inquiry fundraiser going up. Every time he fundraised that, it was, I want to have a go at reform. But he'd never go on the mainstream to try and push that. He got some MPs on board, that's good. But even those MPs, they've not said anything to the mainstream, and it's all very, very, very odd. I find it very odd behaviour, and it makes me think he's basically not trustworthy.
For people like myself, and I just want to make it clear that so far I'm going to vote reform, right? But I am sceptical, and this is where my scepticism is.
That's fine.
Because I know reform basically need to get in a supermajority, a la Boris, what Boris achieved. Then day one, basically rip up what Blair did and just go back to 1997.
Yeah, well, you're certainly seeing the start of that with their promise to get out of the ECHR and get rid of the Human Rights Act. The Equality Act, they've also openly said in the contract they're going to, I think they say amend, but I wouldn't be shocked if they just repeal it either, because they seem to be going a bit harder, as everyone's been asking for, on things like that. So,
like Rupert had a point, maybe.
Rupert did it. Well, this is why Rupert is an idiot. He did have a point, and he couldn't keep his mouth shut and be patient. I have no sympathy for that. It's politics. You've got to be patient.
The problem is I kind of agree with all of you, and I agree with all of you because the problem is that when it came to Lotus Eaters, one of the things that annoyed me was that when Farage got in, people were complaining, that he mellowed off. But the thing is, we all agree that politics is primarily optics.
Yep.
But the question that we have, and I think that this goes back to that point of fracturing of the right, is what optics are important. So is it that the normies currently don't want to be associated even tangentially? They don't want to be called Nazi even tangentially, which I think is basically Harrian's point of view. Normies basically want to feel like they're normal and good people.
Yep.
Or is it that, like Tharium, that most normies are actually sleepers in many ways, hiding their power level? They don't really want to voice their opinion.
If
I think both of them are true,
well,
but I don't know.
I'm not being funny. If people, I was just going to say
I don't know which one is true, but I know that
if it's Tharium's ideal, BNP would not be destroyed. It wouldn't have happened.
That was back then.
What do you mean that was?
Things are different now. Things are a lot worse. Things are a lot worse. Everyone can see it now these days, much more than they could back then.
So why are Homeland and UKIP not exploding? Given that, well, I mean, even
because
UKIP
they're run by lol cows. They're run by gay lol cows. That's why. Like I was saying, but that's my point with Enoch Powell. Like someone like him was around today. Instead, you just got these absolute lol cows who want gay femboys running things. Like, come on.
Based
like,
femboy.
How to destroy your right.
So let me make another point here. Why do these people only attract weirdos? Why do they not attract normal people? Because it's a weird position to have.
Well, then
that's
again,
why.
Like, I mean, Homeland are probably have some sort of Fed involvement, don't they? The Feds are often behind these sort of groups.
I don't think Fed's behind Homeland, to be quite honest. Well, actually, no. Kenny Smith, actually. There is evidence Kenny Smith is a Fed, to be fair. To be fair.
I was going to say, look at the US. Look at, what was it, the Patriot Front, where you looked at them and like,
exactly.
Fed. Yes, obviously.
Well, even then, this doesn't help your point. Like, these groups that I say the whole country actually have their position on, it's full of weirdos or Feds. Why are none of the normal people going there?
Well, look, we have thousands of people arrested every year for this sort of stuff, for saying stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like we have the whole state apparatus working to try.
I'm not being funny, Tharium. You go on Boomer Facebook You go on Boomer right wing Facebook for 5 minutes. People know it, but they don't care. They just don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but again, these are the people. These are the people that if you ask them, do you want Mr. Singh, your doctor, deported? They'll say no. He's one of the good ones. Like. They're not the massive racists.
You know what I think No, I think you're right though. I think you're both you're both right, but it's sort of different angles. The thing that I think that broke the camel's back, from my perspective, was Drag Queen Story Hour, because that was the point where normie women, especially normie mums, got involved, and it hit the mainstream, and they were like, actually, you know what? This is a bit fucking. Sorry, this is a bit weird.
Yeah, once you get women involved, it's over.
And I think that was actually genuinely when the time was turning. I agree with you. I think that was when the tide started turning.
Yeah, and like
when the Tumblr hit the mainstream, basically.
Yeah. And also, like you're saying about Homeland stuff, like how many of these normies have a clue they exist?
I didn't even know they existed until you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you told me about them.
You say like why people aren't joining because nobody knows about them.
Oh no! Well, okay. Well, right. Which is why I brought up BNP, because everyone knows what the BNP was. But nobody's calling for the BNP to return, are they?
But the problem is that again, because there's no money behind it, and this is probably another argument. There is no money behind it.
I have never.
But they have no. Sorry, I was going to say they have no marketing, and because they have no marketing, the only way that people hear about them is either through mainstream media or through online. And if you're going to hear about Homeland through The Guardian, like you're instantly.
Well,
This
I don't think they're going to be trying to recruit through the Guardian. To be fair.
Well, no. But what I'm saying is that
Mm.
if your first time of hearing about like BNP, Homeland, whatever, even reform, if you hear about reform and your first time hearing about reform is from the Guardian,
Mhm.
that's going to be an uphill climb for reform. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but let's be fair, people who read the Guardian are not going to be the people who join reform anyway.
I mean, and
No,
also,
but yeah. Sorry, Tharium. Go on.
yeah, and also they're so tainted, but because you don't get because these people are all like you got the Nazi stuff involved with all these people always.
Mm.
They seem to always sort of be at the forefront rather than sort of people have the attitude but are actually pro-British rather than pro-Hitler.
Yeah, it's and if the BNP were a viable option on the next ballot paper, I wouldn't vote for them. I won't invoke the F word or the N word, but they are totalitarian.
Yeah,
It's anti-English as far as I'm concerned.
They're all commies.
I'll put it this way. If like Rupert Lowe in a tweet the other day, in his tweet that was obviously he paid Connor Tomlinson to write it, whatever. I suspect.
It did look a bit.
Oh, it's ridiculous! Like someone mentioned, this looks like Connor Tomlinson's writing, and I'm like, I can believe he's paid for that.
It wasn't like his other stuff.
Yeah,
it didn't look quite like that.
But anyway, obviously, he said at the end of that, "Oh, I'm not going to be an independent forever." Right? If he joins the Tories, as far as I care, your whole idea that everyone's a secret-based ethno-nationalist is in the toilet. Doesn't exist.
Why?
Because
it doesn't.
Because the people who are on that side are effectively Rupert Lowe is their only representation in Parliament, basically. That's why. And so if he joins the Tories and it's like, oh, that was a joke the whole time, nobody really wants it anyway. Like he wasn't getting the popularity he wants to actually risk having this kind of semi-ethno-nationalist party that he could help create with Ben Habib. If he does join the Integrity Party and it gets nowhere, that is also a point in my favour.
No, it's not. Because
The problem is that. Oh, sorry, Tharium. You go.
I was just going to say, because people just don't hear about these things ever.
People know who Rupert Lowe is at this point. They keep getting his name wrong. Oh, they don't. Oh, God,
Yeah,
Jesus,
that's your point.
That's even
Can
more in
I-
my favour, then, isn't it? Oh,
Can
God.
I try and make a point though?
Yeah.
In Tharium's defense, I think that there's actually some nuance here where I think that people are implicitly, it's what we said earlier, there is an implicit awareness. I think that all people are implicitly ethno-nationalist. It sounds funny
everywhere.
to say.
It's hang on, no, let's be clear.
But we are. But the thing is, we're not dealing with implicits here. We're dealing with explicits, and that's the problem. That's the disconnect.
Yeah.
It's very strange for me to be ethno-nationalist because I'm literally the embodiment of Blair's.
Well, Ben Habib manages it, so I'm sure you can.
Honestly, I need some tips from him. But the thing is, again, it's like ultimately, at the end of the day, I do believe that England is primarily for the English. Wales is primarily for the Welsh.
Yeah.
Scotland is primarily for the Scots.
I
However,
would say Wales is primarily for the English too.
I mean, okay, you know what?
Yeah.
We could go over the details later.
Yeah.
but it's kind of like we feel this implicitly. We know this implicitly, but we don't think it actively. And
yes.
it's like we often quote Heinlein, right? We know that at the end of
Exactly.
we know that voting ultimately is force implicitly, but we don't actively say it. We don't actively go to our liberal Democrat neighbor and say, "I'm going to force you," at the point of a gun to deal with our policies. But ultimately, that is what we're doing when we're voting. There is a lot of implicit stuff going on here that we don't consider actively, and I think that is the disconnect. Homeland will come along, for example, a party like Homeland will say, "Oh, we think about ethno-nationalism like explicitly, and so therefore we assume that everybody else does."
I guess.
like,
Well,
no.
hang on as well on that point. Obviously, they go around and
Sure.
leaflet being like, "Oh my God, white people are going to go extinct in England," whatever. Like they have all these leaflets, And after they've done that for a few months, what do? Oh, they have to start tapering what they are saying because it's being rejected. It's like, yeah, people don't want this like out and loud ethno-nationalism, really. Kenny had to go on to Mark Heath's show and then start saying, yeah, if you marry a Brit, you're British, that's good enough. And then Steve Laws instantly went panic mode and was like, oh, God, he just meant Europeans, Like, even your hardcore ethnat parties having to taper and converge on the reform point.
No. They just want everyone deported politely.
Right.
Yeah. I will say this because this is what I keep thinking in my head. There should not be any English minority cities in England. And quite frankly, until places like London are at least 3/4 English again, I think we should have zero immigration, voluntary repatriation. It's just where I stand.
I mean, again, the first 6 points of Steve Law's remigration plan, they're not. To be honest, they're not that far away. They're not that far away from like what reform's policy kind of was not implicitly. Well, no, the reform contract, had, let's say, the seeds of those plans, because it's like put foreigners to the back of the list for social housing. Benefits, obviously, they shouldn't be getting benefits either. It's welfare chauvinism, effectively, which in turn, it's like, well, then they're not going to stay here because we turn the taps off. We're going to stop them working illegally, properly. They're going to do all the things that remove all the pull factors. They're going to remove all the pull factors that bring immigrants over here. They're even going to tax foreigners. Like, a company has a tax, depending on how many foreign workers they have. They were going to do that as well. Which even I don't even think that's necessary, but there's all this stuff that is basically a light version, we'll say, of the first 6 points of Steve Laws's remigration plans. The last one was the worst, where it's like forced repatriation for anyone left here, and it's like I don't think people would complain at that point, though. You're not going to have that.
As long as places like London, at least 3/4 English. And that should be the base.
This is going to be very controversial for me. I don't really think it matters if London's metropolitan like that. I think Birmingham, Manchester, maybe. London's an international city, and it's going to be like that.
Blairite. Tony Blair has cucked you so hard.
It's Singapore on Thames. It's always been relatively cosmopolitan.
Singaporeans. Relatively, as in it's always been the place where foreigners go. Effectively, it's not. It's
1,000.
Yeah, I know. It was like 90% white in the Victorian period.
Can I give an illustration?
I don't actually think it was that high.
Port of London be foreign as well. I think I've been fair there.
I mean, to be fair, actually, that's probably actually going to be more than we're going to end up with.
Can I give an illustration on this
perfect
one?
world? Go on.
So, as the deep law goes, I have been to Poland a number of times, and there are 2 places in Poland that are quite interesting. One is Krakow, and Warszawa, or Warsaw. So, the reason that I find this hard is because I actually learnt the Polish first before I learnt the English, so I had to remember which is which. Warsaw is the new capital. Krakow is the old capital. Warsaw looks like your every metropolitan city anywhere. It could be Prague. It couldn't be Prague because Prague held on to its old heritage.
Nice city. Yeah.
It could be London. I actually haven't been to Prague. I need to. I've got some friends in Czechia, so I need to Czech Republic. I need to check it out. But Warsaw could be anywhere. High-rise buildings. There are some landmarks which are lovely, whatever. But Krakow, sorry.
Come on, you're supposed to be British. What the fuck? Carry on.
I learned the language, but
yeah,
Krakow actually has the old town, like almost entirely fully intact. It has like the old ruins of the castle there. Basically, Warsaw used to be Warsaw is the new capital. Krakow is the old capital. So the old capital is actually almost fully intact. It's almost like if London never got changed into modern London.
Yeah.
Imagine,
But we're-
imagine like Cheshire. Was it in the UK? It'd be the equivalent of like. Imagine that. Was it Chester or York? Still maintained its like ancient like ruins.
Well, I mean,
You can
they
actually
still do. Yeah.
Well,
York has
to
York
some
has the wall.
extent.
York has the walls
Not
all
by-
around it. What do you mean?
Not to our level. Maybe to your Yimby standards.
yeah,
York is basically still a medieval town. Like everything within the walls is like only
could be
walkable.
better.
No. I'm not talking about medieval. I'm with York. I'm talking about Iboricum or Iberacum or whatever you want to call it, like the Roman, like Fishbourne. You can actually see the old Roman ruins. That's what I'm talking about. So what I'm saying is that like you can. But sorry, before I get derailed, there is a difference between seeing what the capital is now and then the cultural capital. The reason that I find the Warsaw and Krakow useful as a comparison is that you can see the old capital and the new capital essentially back to back, which is fascinating. You can't really do that with London and say Chester.
Well,
and I think
well, I mean,
or at least,
let's
to
be
my-
let's be fair. You know, Colchester was London was only the capital city of. When did it become the capital of? Because I don't think it was always the capital. I think it moved there.
No, it was.
I know it was Colchester.
It was
under.
yeah,
Roman
I think
rule.
it was because Chester just means like fortified place, right?
Well, yeah, it's a fort.
Yeah, it's
Well,
it was York for a while under the Romans. Then I think I can't remember when it was Colchester. Then it was Chester around towards the beginning of the Middle
I mean,
Ages.
it doesn't. We don't need to go into detail.
Yeah.
Point is that we do have old capitals, and they are still
Yeah.
largely kept. So,
Yeah.
York, I mean, I went to York recently. It's got loads of history there, and it's not got massive
Maybe I just
skyscrapers. There's no
Yeah.
skyscrapers in York.
Tamworth of all places, the capital of Mercia.
Yeah, I've been to Tamworth actually. They've got a big statue of that woman near the train station.
That woman.
Tamworth was so strange. It had like I happened to go there when they had a summer festival because English culture's still alive, as I keep saying. So they had this orchestra playing some like Star Wars music or something, and then I just walked through the park where they were playing that, absolutely filled to the brim with goths. I just didn't understand it. Is everyone in Tamworth just a goth?
You messaged me about it, didn't you?
Yeah.
I went through my goth. I went through my goth stage. I kind of never really grew out of it. I just had to be a bit more civilized.
Yeah. But anyway.
There's the.
But yeah,
there's
sorry,
the
I kind of
picture.
probably missed the point that I was making. But
Yeah, I don't know
think
what
that
point you
there is
were.
a-
Well,
There's the picture I shared before and just posted again in the other side of the hill of London 1980 to 2020.
I still like 2020. Like, oh no, you
You're
replace
wrong.
you replace smokestacks with skyscrapers. Oh no, like, you know, I'm not bothered.
But no, I don't like this sort of this. Okay, maybe my point was something along these lines where it's like I know that, especially because we were an empire, a certain element of metropolitanism is inevitable, but I don't. Well, no, not inevitable. It will happen naturally, but it shouldn't be expected or necessarily overly desired. Something like that.
Yes, it's bad.
Where the default should be to try and maintain our old our heritage. You know, in the same way that Krakow, you can still enjoy it, and some parts of Warszawa has the old town and everything, but I think it's the fact that a lot of what is Polish about it got stripped away for the sake of modernism.
It's gonna happen in the modern world, and if you limit that to London, fine. It's already modern. You know.
I mean, to the Germans' credit, they did try to rebuild Dresden as it was.
Oh, good luck.
Let's do it again.
No,
Was there much of it left?
It's for our target practice.
No, there was very little left, but they did a good job of rebuilding the city centre in a nice way as it was before we didn't do anything wrong on it.
before we
have you ever,
reorganized it.
Before we did the most base thing ever.
have you ever heard a boomer question whether we won the war or not?
No.
Yeah, I guess that's so boring, isn't it?
Because they talk about like how advanced Germany and Japan are in comparison to America and UK.
I often liken it to a game of Civ. I'm just like, they failed they failed the military victory, so they went for the cultural victory.
Well, I mean, we would have been a superpower again.
Well, that was basically
if,
the European Union, right?
Yeah, well, we would have been a superpower again if we didn't have Clement Attlee, and then every subsequent prime minister decided to keep most of his legacy. But whatever. Anyway,
that was all Churchill's fault, actually.
that was Churchill's fault. He did want open borders. It is known.
It
is known.
Churchill was prime minister right up until Tony Blair.
Anyway,
True.
we're 2 hours in. So I'm still of the opinion. I don't think anyone's changed my mind that the right fracturing is a good thing because it gives the dorks a place to go and for normal people to point them and say that is not us.
Can I make the argument?
As long as it's quick, go on.
I guess my point is that.
Go on, Sarah.
I guess my point is kind of timing wise.
Mm-hmm.
Should we go down the route that I originally my gut feeling was let's not fracture until we've ceded power, or do you like the idea of fracture now and try and consolidate before the next election?
Competition creates better conditions.
Steel sharpens steel.
Yes.
I also think this is actually Democracy Manifest, and they are all trying to touch my penis.
I see you know your judo well. That guy died recently, sad.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, steel. I mean, because to be honest with you, having these alternatives to the right of reform, it's not like everything they throw out is useless.
No,
there's got to be some useful stuff.
Reform need that pressure, otherwise they're just going to go left like the Tories did.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
it's kind of how I use Poll as my or as I use the dork right essentially as my bellwether. I check myself to the left and also to the right. Sorry, Mercian.
It's a shame we can't amalgamate all the right-wing parties into one party because I really don't like the Reform name, but I do like the Heritage Party name, Heritage. I do like that.
Yeah, I like that name.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Reform Party's fine for where we are now, but I imagine they'd start changing it a few years after they've been in power. They've actually reformed things.
It will be the full Islamic Party then, and we will get that kind of
God. I would like to point out to you again, Tharium, that the one Muslim they have up there in power, in the chair, put out Christian Easter messages.
Yeah, he's just better at hiding it than his cousin Humphrey.
The Homeland Party didn't even do that. They had a rabbit and an egg.
They're gay. They're gay, of course they don't like Easter.
Can I just make a little anecdote?
Yes.
Years ago, I went to an anime convention. Now, this is going to surprise everyone, but I went to the expo in London, where one of the anime conventions is. And I remember that it was very strange one time because there was also another convention on at the same time, and there were a lot of people there, and they were all Middle Eastern. And I remember distinctly looking through one of the doors or whatever, and there was a guy on the stage saying how, we're going to get one person in power, and then we're going to have another person in power. And then, eventually we will have, all of these people in power. And basically, this was actually, I'm not even kidding.
Yep.
I can't remember the full details of it. But this was an actual, convention where they were talking about this stuff back in, the 20-teens, something like that. And so it's like, I'm not saying it's a reform thing. And I don't think I need to convince anybody that there are definitely, I don't want to say separatists. What would I say? There are people.
Morons.
No. What's the There are people who want to essentially have Muslim parties,
Yeah.
Yes, sectarian.
all of them.
Secretary. That's the one. Yeah,
Not,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
clearly
that's
not all of them, is it? Though. Carry on, Sarah.
But,
Carry on. I don't
but
care.
no, but the problem is again that I remember that distinctly, partly because I was very confused at the time because I wasn't anyway. Thank you, Vicar.
Yeah. You weren't plugged into.
No,
any of this.
secretarian is that's the Bill Clinton type of politics, but no, it is absolutely a threat, and I remember because at the time I wasn't particularly political, but I remember it very clearly, and that was something that seemed to be brewing even back then, and I hope to God that it's not something that is in reform, but it is a force, and it is something that we need to look out for. So, and I think that it takes us, especially somebody who might be hoping to join reform directly, Arian,
do it.
Is something that you should definitely consider as an option and keep an eye out for it for the rest of us.
I mean, like that one guy who was trying to recruit Islamists outside the mosque to reform. Why are you doing that? Why do you want these people in your party? Hello, Inshallah brothers. Have you heard the words of Nigel Al-Farage?
I will say it again. That man was called a traitor by all the sectarians. Clearly, you know, he doesn't want to be he doesn't want to be part of sectarian politics.
In any of your canvassing, would you think, I know, I'll go to the Islamist mosque. I'll get them on board.
Well, amazingly, there weren't many in Runcorn. When you canvass and leaflet, you just give it an area to post the leaflets in. So, I don't think I saw any Muslims, but I only saw about
yeah,
but I only saw about 30 people.
I know.
So.
I know there's no mosques around you lucky boy.
I think there is. I think we looked and there actually is, but it's like 20 miles away, which is basically next door in Wales. Yeah, but that's next door in Wales.
Okay.
That's the kind of next door that I can deal with.
Runcorn, 96.6 identified as white, mixed multiple ethnic groups made up 1.5% Asian British, Asian Welsh, 1% Black British, Black Welsh, Caribbean, African, and 0.4% and other ethnic groups at 0.6%.
It's about that it probably says something about me, but every time you say Asian, I immediately think Japanese.
Yeah, I know.
Well, anyway.
Let's just leave that there.
Anyway.
That's the American way of thinking as well.
Yeah, that is, yeah. Because traditionally we'd have said that was Oriental, but now that's sort of
it's true, actually,
considered racist.
Anyway.
Even though that's where they're from.
Anyway, people are complaining that they keep having to see I nearly call him Jordan Peterson. Peter Hitchens' face.
Put on a picture of Roland Lowe instead.
Right. I think with that, there's an argument both ways. Obviously, you need the right united. If you want to see united right, basically everyone should vote Reform then, because they're the only party to the right of all the others that have any serious chance of getting anywhere. All right, so that's your united right. Get behind Reform. People aren't doing that. Tories aren't doing it because the Tory boys we know they're just too loyal. It's just loyalty. They feel icky voting anyone who isn't Tory. The rest of them are all basically Lib Dems. When it comes to the right, it's like, oh, don't trust Farage. I totally get not trusting a politician. I don't really get what your alternative is. Hence, all of you have obviously said, "Oh, we'll vote Reform." Yeah. So I could appreciate that at the very least, but
even Lib Dems are becoming unintentionally based, whether they know it or not.
With the headphone thing.
Yes.
Yeah. The casual outflank.
So close. That's
wait. What did I miss?
Oh, they go on. You explain.
So Lib Dems want to impose a £1,000 fine on anyone who plays loud music on public transport. Oh.
Actually, you know what?
So based, right? And that lot are so close to just being radicalized completely.
Is there?
What do you notice about these people playing the loud music, Lib Dem voter?
Is there anything else for people who have to have their phone calls on loudspeaker and just yell at the fucking phone?
It applies to them too.
Oh man,
I know, right?
They're just yelling at the phone that's
Mhm.
2 centimeters in front of them on loudspeaker, and not salty about this at all.
Yeah,
Oh,
base
hello?
Lib Dems.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost you.
Yeah, I think we could radicalize that lot very easily. Just need
I
a
do-
little nudge.
I do find it
The
interesting,
power of
though.
Middle England on our side. Ooh.
Yeah.
No, honestly, though, it is
Yes.
strange, though, that because we talk about the fracturing of the right, but there has absolutely been a fracturing of the left. I think that the current Labour Party has just decimated the current Labour constituent to the
Mhm.
point where you are seeing a lot of people moving Lib Dem and
Yeah.
moving Green.
Oh, they're just
And-
the Lib Dems are the alternative to Tory, the Greens are the alternative to Labour. That's all that is. It's not.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
that's
like-
kind of damning for Tory, though, because
Well,
I consider
yeah.
Green, Labour, and Lib Dem basically all commies as far as I'm concerned.
Can you name
It's
me? Sorry, can you name me one Lib Dem policy that isn't the headphone
Nope.
thing? Exactly.
Nope.
Right, carry on,
well,
Tharium.
It said-
We don't want to do anything. We just
Yeah.
Wait,
leave it
do
as
they
it
want to
is.
wanna have
legalize?
fun.
Do they want to
Yeah.
legalize weed? I can't remember.
Who knows? Who
Was that a
literally,
No
Lib Dem
idea.
policy?
literally,
Imagine-
literally,
no.
who knows?
Right, the Lib Dems are the tone police, the Middle England tone police. It's
Mhm.
basically what Lib Dems are.
It's the
They don't
Karen
have any
party.
policies. Yeah, they're basically. Oh, could you not do that? You know, they're those people.
Yeah, the Karen party. I think that is.
Basically, yes, yeah,
Yeah,
but they're not. They're low key Karens.
They're low
Does
key
that make
Karens.
sense?
I think they're
they don't
high
want to
key.
speak to the manager. They don't want to speak to the manager, but they're going to
They want
badmouth
you-
the manager later.
Well,
Yeah.
If the Lib Dems got into power, they wouldn't do anything.
No,
It's basically like not having a prime minister.
it would just be Ed Davey photo shoots all the
I-
time.
Yeah, in fact, their political campaign was probably spot on for their actual
Yep.
politics.
I think you might be right that Lib Dems are just commies. I'm just reading their economic policy. They want to provide long-term help with the cost of living by cutting energy bills through an emergency home energy upgrade program, which I assume means they'll put heat pumps and stuff in.
Oh, that sounds expensive.
Yeah, tackling rising food prices through a national food strategy and getting mortgage rates under control through careful economic management. It's like, yeah.
Tommy.
I mean, I'm not being funny. I've heard a complaint that, Reform have no policies and just have platitudes. I don't know what to call that other than a platitude. Like, what was that? We'll do good
Yeah.
things for you. Anyway, I think we've come to the conclusion here that effectively uniting the right effectively does mean, at the moment, voting reform. Doesn't mean it will be that forever, obviously. We have idiots all over the place on the right, and luckily they're going into their own cubby holes largely. They might say some bait. Go on.
Preferably, we want the idiots to vote reform.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. A lot of them might. Like, what other choice they have?
I hope
Apparently,
enough
at
of
least
us.
3 of them are on this panel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I
I'm a
I hope
skeptical
enough-
idiot right here.
I hope enough of us sneak through the containment net and we're able to take over reform afterwards.
Well, your best chance for that's me, oddly enough.
Well, I
um,
support you for a reason.
yeah, well,
I'll
right.
be using the clips of Hitler was good and
Hitler was good.
what's the other one?
Cheat on your wife.
Yeah, I'll be using those as blackmail. Thank you.
Amazing.
So what you want about Hitler, but he was effective.
I will have it as quotes to live by. Harry in 2025 edition.
Yeah, I mean, and as we say, the fracturing of the right, as I say, the base stuff that the alternative parties say, reform can pinch that. Oh, have you thanked us even once, as Carl Benjamin says? No, you don't need it, idiot. Anyway.
Sargon invented deportation.
Sargon did it.
No one thought of it before
Literally, nobody was against immigration until Sargon of Akkad came about. It's incredible, really. What an influence.
Just remember that 20 years ago, was it open borders and mass immigration was a left-wing policy, as in they were against it.
Yeah.
Just remember.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, I'd like to thank chat for being very involved. Thank you, everyone who was sending your chats. Thank you, obviously, Mercian, Tharium, and Sarah for coming on. It's been entertaining chat as usual.
Welcome. Didn't even mention
Thank
World War One.
I know.
for having me.
I only got annoyed once. That's good.
No, my headphones, but it's fine.
It lasted about 20 minutes, but I was only annoyed once. Yeah, so I'm doing gaming streams now on Thursday evenings, starting some Nautica. I'll probably be in the what's it called? One of the voice chats that friends of the channel can join. So do look forward to that. And then what else am I doing? I'm doing Laughing at the Guardian on Saturday. I have guests set up, and obviously Tharium gets his week off. So well done. Who do we have? We have Youth Pastor, Jack, and John. So those three should be on.
Nice.
So should be a fun one.
Do you not want me on because me and Jack will team up and bully you?
Nah,
It's fine,
you're
Darren.
right.
We can be
You're
in the
right.
chat.
You're all right. No, you can do that the 2 weeks after.
We can bully him with super chats.
Yeah, you can bully me with super chats. That's why you're not joining. So anyway, videos out on my channel as and when. Obviously, become a channel member. Send super chats, super thanks. Definitely should have said. I did say that at the beginning actually, so that's not too bad. Right, go over to my channel as well, Harry England Eve. To be honest, everyone in the chat subscribes to me. I'm pretty sure anyway. So with that is everything I had for you, or we had for you for today. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.